In the end, I will become a god through hard work. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Charm Level 3. Leave the rest to me. What a handsome tall brother. Wow, there's a cat sitting on his shoulder. So cute. Why are cats so pretty? Take a picture from this angle. It will definitely go viral if you post it online. In the bustling streets of Dongcheng district, high-rise buildings are lined up one after another. Xue Jing is standing on the street with Mao Mao, and his overly young face is somewhat out of tune with the surroundings. Faintly, several beautiful sisters wearing old clothes and delicate makeup can be heard whispering not far away, and the charm experience on the panel is constantly increasing. Someone has a good impression of you. Charm experience +1. Someone has a good impression of you. Charm experience +1. Someone has a good impression of you. Charm experience +1. Someone has a good impression of you. Charm experience +1. Someone. Charm is upgraded to LV3, 0/500. After closing the panel, Xue Jing asked, "Are you sure I won't be beaten to death on the spot if I go up to challenge him like this?" Mao Mao first looked at the boy in confusion, then sniffed his scent. Why does he suddenly look better and smell better? Shaking his head without thinking too much, Mao Mao snorted and said, "Since this leader asked you to come directly, he must be sure. In fact, this is the correct way to open the hidden dragon dojo." Xue Jing asked curiously, "Oh, how do you mean?" Mao Mao's tail swept across Xue Jing's cheek and wrapped around his neck. The disciples in the dojo are also divided into levels. Those disciples who only come in by paying money, even if they are taught seriously, will not be able to make a name for themselves if they do not have enough talent. And if the dojo wants to keep its reputation, it has to rely on real disciples who are talented. As for how to select disciples, every dojo has its own method, and one of the methods used by Kanglang Dojo to select disciples is self-recommendation. In the way of martial arts, character is especially important. Only with an invincible spirit can you throw an invincible punch. If you are confident that you have enough talent and air to show it to the dojo, then you will have the opportunity to become a disciple of Kanglang Dojo. What can better demonstrate your character and talent than challenging the dojo? Mao Mao jokingly said, "You haven't practiced martial arts much, but you dare to come to challenge the dojo. Old Manly will definitely appreciate your invincible talent and amazing wisdom." Xue Jing said speechlessly, "What if I get beaten up after I go up?" "No." Mao Mao shook his head. The dojo has to save face to protect its reputation, so it usually only sends people of your age to accept the challenge. Although you have just learned to use strength, your physical fitness is incredibly strong, which is very rare in your age group. I don't think your peers in the Kanglang Dojo will be your opponent. Besides, we don't want to succeed in the challenge. Even if you get beaten up after going up, as long as the people in the dojo see your talent and potential, then the goal will be achieved. In short, don't think about it, go in quickly, just say you want to challenge the dojo, and leave the rest to me," Mao Mao urged. Xue Jing nodded, "Okay." After all, it was a free opportunity to enter the dojo, and he was very confident in himself now. He opened the panel and took a look. Fitness LV4, 139/1200. Health LV2, 109/500. Cooking LV3, 12/800. Running LV4, 873/1200. Charm LV3, 12/800. Aiming LV2, 169/500. Fighting LV1, 196/300. Strength LV1, 12/300. Although he spent most of his time studying how to use breathing to mobilize strength during these 3 days, he also gained a lot of experience in other skills. Among them, fitness gained the most, from LV3 to LV4. His physical fitness was strengthened to a considerable extent again. The weight of his bench press has reached 200 kilograms. Although his punching power has not been tested, he estimates that it is at least 240 kilograms. If he uses strength, he doesn't know how strong a punch he can burst out. He is now afraid that he will not be able to control his strength and accidentally kill someone. He took Mayo into the office building, got into the elevator, and pressed the 17th floor. This office building is a Class A office building, and it is built in the Dongcheng district, where every inch of land is valuable. The rent is extremely expensive, but Kanglang Dojo can rent a floor of it. The area is 2,000 square meters. Xue Jing roughly calculated that the monthly rent is at least 400,000 yuxia coins, which can be said to be quite rich. The elevator arrived at the 17th floor. When the door opened, there was a long corridor. At the end of the corridor was an automatic transparent door with a plaque hanging on it, with 4 large characters written in a dragon flying phoenix flying style, Kanglang Dojo. Xue Jing took Mayo into the door. As soon as he entered the door, Mayo left a sentence, "You just go to challenge the hall, and leave the rest to me," then jumped off his shoulder, and rushed into the dojo, and no one knew where he ran away. Kick the hall? How do you kick it? I've never kicked it before. Xue Jing thought about it, and walked to the front desk not far from the door. There sat a female receptionist wearing a Cheongsam uniform, with a pretty figure and appearance. "Sister." Xue Jing walked forward, with a smile like the warm winter sun on his handsome face. The girl was secretly playing with her phone, and was startled by the sudden voice. She looked up quickly. "Yes, what do you have?" Before she finished speaking, she was stunned when she saw the boy in front of her. She saw the sea of flowers, the stars, her first love whose appearance she had long forgotten, and the collection of all the beautiful things in the world. "Someone has developed a lot of good feelings for you. Charm experience plus 54. Looking at the message that popped up on the panel, Xue Jing paused and restrained the smile on his lips. The girl came back to her senses, lowered her head with a flushed face, stood up, and said at a loss, "Hello. Hello, how can I help you?" As she spoke, she raised her eyes and secretly looked at Xue Jing. "Oh my god. How can there be such a good looking person in this world?" Xue Jing hesitated for a moment, and said awkwardly, "Please notify me, I want to challenge you." Girl, huh? On the other side, after Mayo flashed into the Kanglang Dojo, it seemed to be very familiar with this place, and its purpose was quite clear. After turning around, it finally arrived at the door of a room with the words Yangtze Room written on it. It had just walked to the door when a slightly old voice came from inside. "Come in." It was actually through a door that it directly noticed its almost silent cat steps. Mayo was not surprised at all, stretched out white gloves, pushed open the door, and walked in. In the spacious room, there was only an old man sitting in a wheelchair, wearing a classic old man suit of a white vest and shorts, with a shining Mediterranean on his head. "Long time no see, old manly," Mayo said softly, with a complicated look in his eyes. "Huh? This voice? Ning girl?" Li Qi said in surprise. "Where have you been, little girl? You're still alive, but you didn't even tell me you're safe. I've been going out in my wheelchair every day to look for you lately. I'm so tired." Li Qi touched his bald spot, shook his head and sighed. "Stop it, you perverted bald old man. The only purpose of going out in your wheelchair is to blow up the skirts of high school girls." Mayo pouted and said disdainfully. Old man Li was unhappy. "Hey, who are you calling young? I don't deny that I'm a perverted bald man." Mayo was speechless. "Stop talking nonsense. I came to you for only one purpose. Please read on." "Kneel down please." Chapter 27. I'm here for a blind date. After Xue Jing said he wanted to challenge the gym, the front desk lady picked up the phone on the table with a strange look on her face, and informed the dojo of the news that someone wants to challenge the gym. She looked at Xue Jing, who was sitting on a lounge chair with his arms folded across his chest, and closing his eyes to rest, with a look of pity. Such a good looking person, it's a pity that his brain is somewhat stained. But even so, it's not impossible. Even if he is kept at home as meat, it's also very good as a decoration. Not knowing that the girl sitting at the front desk was making some impolite associations with him, Xue Jing sat on the chair, pretending to be a master without saying a word, silently waiting for the response of the Kanglang Dojo. A few minutes later, the girl at the front desk answered a call, said a few words, hung up the phone, stood up, and said to Xue Jing, "This sir." Xue Jing opened his eyes and looked at her. The girl tried her best to show the best smile she had practiced in front of the mirror and said softly, "Please follow me." Xue Jing nodded and stood up. The girl led the way in front. She was wearing a slim navy blue cheongsam that fully highlighted her graceful figure. The slits on both sides were close to the roots of her thighs. As a pair of slender fleshy white legs in high heels swayed left and right, they were looming. I don't know if it was intentional, but when she walked, her perky and plump parts twisted a little exaggeratedly, which always tightened the cheongsam, causing the shape to be exposed. Xue Jing followed behind her and took a few more glances. Well, cheongsam is really civilized. Following the cheongsam girl into the dojo, in contrast to the modern decoration outside, the decoration inside the dojo is quite ancient. The mahogany corridors are carved with dragons, phoenixes and other animals, and landscape screens, antiques, and calligraphy and paintings can be seen everywhere, which is in line with Xue Jing's impression of the ancient martial arts dojo. However, after arriving at the most spacious training hall on the entire floor, the style of painting changed again, and it was no longer ancient. In the large, open, square training hall, on the white rubber floor, there were dozens of punching bags of various styles, as well as a wide variety of fitness equipment that Xue Jing didn't recognize. In addition to these, there was an octagonal, cushioned ring on each corner of the training hall. At this moment, disciples in white training clothes were sparring on it, and there were also many disciples standing around watching. "Please take a look around here first." After bringing Xue Jing in, the cheongsam girl smiled at him. Xue Jing hummed lightly, then looked around and observed the environment here. Seeing that this good-looking boy didn't say anything else and didn't seem to be very interested in her, the cheongsam girl was a little disappointed, but she had to go back to the front desk in her high heels. Xue Jing stared at the fight going on in one of the rings for a while and felt that it was still quite intense, with punches hitting the flesh. No wonder the disciples around were cheering excitedly. These should be ordinary disciples who paid to come here, but their level is much higher than I thought. He didn't look at them for long, but took off his shoes, walked barefoot to the rest area, and sat down on a leather bench. The disciples around him noticed him. Huh? Who is that person? New here? He didn't change his clothes, so he shouldn't be here. Is he here to visit? He's really good looking. Go ask for his contact information. I'm going to eat young grass today. Many female disciples' eyes lit up. But before they could take any action, there was a sudden noise at the door of the training hall. The old owner and several disciples are here. Xue Jing's eyes moved, and he looked at the door. He saw 5 or 6 people, led by a Mediterranean old man in a wheelchair, filing in from the door and walking towards him. Behind the old man in the wheelchair was a young girl who looked about 28 years old. She pushed the wheelchair with bright eyes and was as agile as a newborn animal. She was looking at Xue Jing curiously. On the left and right sides of the girl were 2 men and 1 woman. One was a sturdy middle-aged man with long hair down to his waist, a cold and elegant face, wearing a black training suit, with his sleeves rolled up, revealing his muscular forearms. The other was a young man who looked to be in his early 20s, handsome, with a pair of peach blossom eyes, looking up and down at Xue Jing, nodding from time to time, and making a sound of tsk. The last one was a pretty short-haired girl with a cold face, and her appearance and expression were very similar to the middle-aged man. They seemed to be father and daughter. She was also wearing a black training suit, with a great figure, holding a huge meat bun of astonishing size in both hands, and biting it constantly, and the astonishing size of the part on her body kept shaking as she walked. After looking at a few people, Xue Jing's eyes fell on the cat sitting on the armrest of the wheelchair. The cat licked its paws and nodded at him. What's going on? Even the old owner is here. I've been here for so long, but this is the first time I've seen him in the training hall. All the disciples who didn't go out are here too. What's going on? Is our dojo finally going to collapse? What a cute cat. I've been single for so long that even a cat looks pretty. Senior Sister ZHU and Senior Sister Meng are right in front of you, and you actually went to see a cat. You deserve to be single. With the arrival of the owner and the disciples, the students in the training hall noticed something was wrong and gradually quieted down, with only occasional whispers. Old man Li stopped in front of Xue Jing. Behind him, 4 disciples lined up in a row. Each of them had a good appearance and temperament, and looked quite impressive. Old Man Lee himself looked like an ordinary old man on the street. "I heard that you are here to challenge the dojo?" Old Man Lee asked. As soon as the words came out, they immediately caused an uproar. Xue Jing first glanced at the cat, then stood up, his eyes calm, and nodded, "Not bad." Seeing that he stood up and looked ready for battle, Old Man Lee immediately waved his hand, sighed, and said, "Don't worry, you are here to challenge. Why are you so serious? Sit down first." Xue Jing, who had just stood up, paused slightly, twitched the corners of his mouth, and sat back down. Old Man Lee glanced up and down at Xue Jing, and for some reason, his eyes were inexplicably kind. "What's your name?" Xue Jing looked strange. "Xue Jing. How old are you?" 17. Old Man Lee nodded, as if satisfied. "Well, the age is suitable, and the zodiac signs are not in conflict. Where do you live? What do your parents do? Are you an only child? Do you have any brothers or sisters?" "I go to the affiliated middle school." Not bad." As Old Man Lee asked questions, the atmosphere on the scene gradually became strange. Xue Jing looked confused. "I'm here for a blind date." The veins on the forehead of the cat sitting on the armrest of the wheelchair were bulging, and he felt ashamed and angry. What on earth did this old man misunderstand? Question mark? Meow. He quickly stopped her. If she continued, she would not be able to live in Xue Jing's house. Hearing this meow with obvious dissatisfaction, Old Man Lee stopped asking questions with an unsatisfied look. He coughed dryly and said, "Then let's get to the point. Xue Jing wants to challenge the master. Who of you is interested?" He looked at the disciples around him. The young girl's eyes lit up, and she immediately raised her right hand. Hey, I'll do it. I'll do it. Please read more. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. A True Feminist. Junior Sister ZHU, stop messing around. The young man among the direct disciples shrugged and said, "Your kung fu is not yet up to par, and you hit him without any restraint. He may be our future junior brother. What if we hurt him? Here, I, who is the most mature and steady, will do it." Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by the old man Lee thoughtfully. "No, let Xue Jing go." The young man asked in confusion. "Ah." The master just asked about the young man's well-being. Doesn't he like him very much? Well, let the junior sister. This is terrible. I'm afraid she will have a psychological trauma before she even enters the door. The young man looked at Xue Jing with pity. Great. The girl named ZHU Xue Jing cheered. Her bright and lively eyes curved into two crescents. It was not seen how she moved, and the whole person suddenly flashed and came to Xue Jing's side, and the speed was extremely fast. She reached out and held Xue Jing's hand and walked quickly to the nearest ring. "Little junior brother, follow me." Xue Jing's eyes moved. This speed. He did not resist and let the girl's soft little hand lead him forward. Mao Mao, who was sitting on the armrest of the wheelchair, curled his lips. For some reason, he was a little unhappy. After ZHU Xue Jing led Xue Jing to the ring, he let go of his hand, then jumped to the opposite side of Xue Jing with two backflips lightly and gracefully, clasped his fists towards Xue Jing, smiled with his eyes curved, and said, "Little junior brother, please give me more advice." Xue Jing was a little amazed at the agility he showed. Backflips are not difficult, but to do this level of lightness and naturalness, that is more natural than a cat, the difficulty is completely different. This is the first time he has faced someone who has truly practiced martial arts, and he is a little excited. He imitated the girl, and clasped his fists and said, "Please give me more advice." As they took their positions, the disciples around them also came over to watch. Hey, what's going on? Didn't that guy come to challenge? And the owner asked him all kinds of questions, like he was on a blind date. What's going on now? Why can't I understand? That's right, I don't understand either. Anyway, since it was senior sister ZHU who took action, he will definitely be in a miserable situation. I bet 50 cents that he will at least break one hand and one foot. Be more confident. I bet $5 that all 4 limbs will be broken. TSK. Pitiful. Xue Jing inexplicably found that almost everyone around him looked at him with a trace of pity that he couldn't understand. At this time, the young man walked to the middle of the ring, first patted Xue Jing on the shoulder, and comforted him. Be careful. If you feel that you can't do it, just admit defeat quickly. I will come to save you right away. Xue Jing. Then, the young man stood between the two of them, raised his right hand, and waved it down. Start. After saying that, he immediately jumped back out of the ring. Little junior brother, be careful. Xue Jing smiled happily, stepped forward, and shot out like an arrow from a bow, at an absurd speed. He clenched his bare hands into fists and hit Xue Jing. Then, Xue Jing grabbed her wrist, and threw her over his shoulder, slamming her to the ground. Bang! He threw her without reservation, even using his strength, with such force, that the entire ring shook violently. The girl fell directly to the ground, and fell into a baby-like sleep on the spot. The disciples who were watching. The young disciple looked confused. The other 2 disciples who looked like father and daughter, who had not spoken since they came in, could not help but look sideways at the young man standing on the ring. The cat looked proud, and its tail couldn't help but swing back and forth. The whole dojo fell into an eerie silence. So, did I succeed in kicking the gym? Xue Jing stood on the ring, looking at Li Qi in a wheelchair, wondering. In silence, Li Qi looked at Xue Jing, then looked at Mao on the armrest, and sighed. You really found a good seedling for me. On the way home, Mao squatted on Xue Jing's shoulder, with a proud look on his face. You have never practiced martial arts, but you can defeat the disciple of Kanglang Dojo. In the future, you can go to Kanglang Dojo at any time, and receive teaching from Old Man Li for free, and no one dares to complain. And I don't have to owe Old Man Li a big favor for this. On the contrary, Old Man Li has to thank me for giving him a good disciple like you. Win-win, win-win, we win twice. The tail swept across Xue Jing's cheek, bringing a soft itch. He thought for a while and said, I didn't expect things to end so quickly. I thought the disciple of Kanglang Dojo should be very strong, and I was prepared to be beaten. You are not wrong. Mao said. In fact, that girl is really strong, much stronger than you are now. Xue Jing asked doubtfully, then why? Mao smiled and said, I would like to ask you, on the contrary, why will the stronger one definitely win? In this world, there are countless examples of the weak defeating the strong. Some people even with 100,000 soldiers cannot beat the other side with 800 people. Such a huge gap can be reversed, let alone you and that girl. Martial arts is not about comparing numbers. The person with the bigger number will definitely win. Mood, state, will, intelligence, decision making, even just a little bit of luck, may become the key to affecting victory or defeat. If that girl was more cautious, and didn't use this kind of big punch to start, if she knew a little information about you, and had some understanding of your reaction speed, if she used her strength to protect her whole body in advance, if you didn't use all your strength to win in one battle, after seizing the opportunity, Mao said meaningfully, if any tiny factor changes, she will not be defeated by you, but the indisputable fact is that she lost. This is the world of martial artists. Xue Jing seemed to understand. This is also a good warning for you. With your talent, I think you will become very strong in the future, but you must not be too arrogant, otherwise something like today may happen. Mao warned. Xue Jing smiled and said, I will pay attention, Teacher 1. Hearing this title, Mao nodded with satisfaction. You experienced David battle. Combat EXP plus 211. You experienced David battle. Fitness EXP plus 121. You experienced David battle, and felt happy healthy XP plus 89. You experienced David battle, aim EXP plus 56. You experienced David battle, mobilization EXP plus 139. Combat upgraded to LV2, 107/500. Xue Jing glanced at the prompt on the panel. Feeling his body getting stronger, smiled silently, and a sense of satisfaction emerged in his heart. By the way, you can hit such a pitiful girl without hesitation. You don't have misogyny or something? Mao Mao suddenly asked. Xue Jing looked at it strangely and shook his head. Not really, it's just that I'm a true feminist and I treat men and women the same. Please read more. Chapter 29. Just call me Jingai. The next morning, Xue Jing woke up, washed himself, prepared breakfast for the sleeping cat, and went out immediately. He took the bus to Dongcheng district and entered the office building where Kanglang Dojo was located. He took the elevator to the 17th floor and entered the main door. He saw the Chiangsum girl who received him yesterday sitting at the front desk. Xue Jing walked up, knocked on the front desk, and said with a smile, "Good morning." Because she came to work early, the Chiangsum girl who was yawning and playing with her mobile phone was startled. She looked up and saw that it was Xue Jing. She quickly put away her mobile phone and stood up. "Good morning. Good morning, Master Xue." Master? This title that sounds a bit corrupt makes Xue Jing not used to it. He waved his hand, sighed, and said modestly, "Why call me Master? There is no need to be so respectful. Just call me Master Jing." Chiangsum girl. I feel that this title is much more excessive than Master. But she still spoke immediately, smiling sweetly. "Yes, Master Jing Hei." Xue Jing responded, feeling much more comfortable now. Yesterday, after he defeated Takia Maraying, who was his direct disciple, Li Qi announced on the spot that he would accept him as a disciple, and Kanglang Dojo had another direct disciple. From then on, he was the direct disciple of Kanglang Dojo, and his status was only lower than that of the owner Li Qi. The ordinary disciples had to respectfully call him little senior brother when they saw him, and the staff who were not disciples had to call him young master. It feels like I have suddenly crossed the class. Xue Jing thought to himself, left the front desk, and walked into the dojo. The Chiangsum girl looked at his back until he disappeared from her sight, and then sat down with a sense of loss. Xue Jing walked straight all the way to the training hall. It was still early, and there were only a few more diligent ordinary disciples in the training hall. When they saw him come in, they all greeted him, calling him little senior brother, and their attitudes were quite respectful. This is also one of the reasons why Ning Fengwen let him enter the dojo in the form of challenging the hall. After what happened yesterday, seeing how powerful he is, no one would have any complaints about such a young and talented boy suddenly becoming a direct disciple. "Junior brother here, here." A shout came from his ear, and Xue Jing turned his head and saw that it was the handsome young man who was one of the direct disciples. "Senior brother." Xue Jing nodded at him and smiled. The young man smiled and said cheerfully, "My surname is Chen. My name is Fu Guang. You can just call me Senior Brother Chen. Come with me, Junior Brother. I've been waiting for you for a while." After saying that, he took the lead and walked out of the training hall. Xue Jing got up and followed. Chen Fuguang led the way and said, "You are a direct disciple, so you have your own practice room. I have already prepared it for you. You will practice in the practice room in the future. I will show you the way first." Xue Jing nodded. "Thank you, Senior Brother. By the way, Senior Brother Chen, where are Master and the other senior brothers and sisters?" he asked in confusion. "Master has an appointment with a doctor today. He has some old problems with his legs and feet. He goes to the doctor to check the situation every once in a while. He will be back soon." Chen Fuguang smiled and explained, "As for the other brothers, let me introduce them to you first. There are currently 4 direct disciples staying in the dojo. In addition to me, who ranks 5th, the one who fought with you yesterday was junior sister Zushin Yingsu. She ranks 6th, and is the youngest direct disciple except you. You also saw the other 2 yesterday. They are senior brother Meng Bosheng and 4th senior sister Meng Qingjiao. Are they relatives?" Xue Jing recalled the similarities in their appearance and expression, and asked. Chen Fuguang smiled and nodded. "They are father and daughter. The eldest brother entered the sect first, and later married, and had a daughter, Sister Meng. Because she is very talented, the master accepted her as a disciple and taught her. We disciples have work to do on weekdays. It was just a coincidence that all 4 of us were here yesterday. The eldest brother and sister Meng are capable and should do more work. After you went back yesterday, they went out to work and have not returned yet. Sister ZHU accompanied the master to see a doctor. As they spoke, the two turned a corner and came to a corridor with elegant and ancient decorations. Xue Jing looked up and saw that there were 7 doors on both sides of the corridor, 3 on the left and 4 on the right. There were signs on the doors with Chinese numbers, which were exactly 1 to 7. The master's name is Li Qi, so when the temple was established more than 20 years ago, he said that he would accept 7 disciples. So no matter how many times the temple has moved, 7 practice rooms will be prepared during the decoration. Chen Fuguang said with some emotion. After you came, our Kanglang dojo is finally full. The two walked to the door with the word 7 written on it, and Chen Fuguang stretched out his hand to push the door open. This is a spacious room of about 80 square meters, with a wine red solid wood floor that looks very expensive. There is almost no furnishings in the room, and it can be seen at a glance. This training room is yours from now on. Chen Fuguang reached out and patted Xue Jing on the shoulder, then changed the subject. Okay, senior brother, I have something important to do. Junior brother, you can just walk around the dojo. Master will be back soon. Xue Jing nodded and smiled. It seems that the direct disciple is really busy. Senior brother Chen also has to go out to work early in the morning. Chen Fuguang waved his hand. That's not the case. I met a rich woman in the bar last night and made an appointment to exchange martial arts experience with her today. Xue Jing. Chen Fuguang left in a hurry, and Xue Jing did not wander around. Instead, he stayed in the training room and sat quietly to practice breathing. As his various skills related to physical fitness improved, and as he gradually cultivated strength, his body's adaptability to breathing has greatly increased. Now he can perform about 20 basic breathing cycles in a row before he feels that it is difficult to continue. You performed a breathing exercise once. Fitness EXP plus 16. You performed a breathing exercise once. Fitness EXP plus 16. After practicing the breathing exercise twice and half an hour had passed, an old voice suddenly came from the side. Your basic breathing exercise has traces of a breathing exercise from the Jinfeng dojo. Where did you learn it from? Xue Jing opened his eyes, and then he found that Li Qi, who was sitting in a wheelchair, was right next to him. He didn't know when he came. Like a ghost, he quickly stood up, clasped his fists towards Li Qi and said, Master. After a pause, there was a classmate in school who was a disciple of the Jinfeng dojo for a period of time. He taught me. Li Qi nodded and smiled. Don't be shy, I'm just asking casually. Yuaning's boyfriend. In addition to being a master and disciple, we have another connection. Xue Jing was stunned, but did not refute his boyfriend's statement. He just asked curiously, Master, what is your relationship with her? Li Qi thought about it and said nostalgically, it should be considered. I wanted to be her grandfather, but I didn't succeed in the end. Xue Jing. Happy New Year's Eve to all readers. Chapter 30, Old Stories, Hidden Dragon Kung Fu Body. Li Qi waved his hands. These are all old stories. Back then, the old man and Ning girl's grandmother loved each other and almost got married, but unfortunately her husband didn't agree. Xue Jing, tell me more. Xue Jing rarely ignited the fire of gossip. Li Qi touched his smooth Mediterranean sea and said modestly, hey, it's nothing actually. When I was young, I was good looking, so I was 50-50 with you, so there were more temptations around. I was young and full of blood, so I liked fighting and killing, so I found a way to get into the famous dragon sect. At that time, Ning girl's grandfather had not yet become the leader. I was as close to him as a brother and often visited his home. Li Qi's eyes were filled with nostalgia. When I first met my sister-in-law, her buttocks. Xue Jing sat down and listened attentively, afraid to miss a word. Unexpectedly, Li Qi smacked his lips and said, alas, there is nothing much to say. The past is too painful to recall. Xue Jing was a little anxious. Come on, master, tell me more. Li Qi glanced at him and said, are you here to learn martial arts or to listen to books? Young people should not ask about the affairs of the older generation. Xue Jing moved his mouth and barely managed to curse. Damn you, you idiot. Okay, I'll listen to this kind of thing later. Let's talk about business first, Li Qi said. Xue Jing also collected his attention and nodded in response. Yes. Come here, I'll feel your bones. Li Qi waved his hand. Xue Jing walked in front of him. Stretch out your hand. Xue Jing did as he was told. Li Qi stretched out his somewhat skinny palm, grabbed Xue Jing's wrist, and shook it violently like shaking noodles. Xue Jing only felt an irresistible huge force flowing into his body along his wrist. The whole person was like a boat in the stormy sea, and he could not help but make various movements, and his bones made a series of crackling sounds. HMM. HMM. Li Qi felt Xue Jing's body with the information transmitted by the force, and was puzzled at first, and then surprised. "What kind of exercise do you usually do?" he asked in confusion. Xue Jing said, "Just running and so on, nothing else." After listening, Li Qi murmured, "It's impossible. Is this really true?" He raised his head, and his originally turbid old eyes were frighteningly bright. "You kid, do you know what's wrong with your body?" Xue Jing was a little uneasy when he was looked at, and asked in confusion, "What's wrong, master? Am I not feeling well?" "Not well." Li Qi shook his head, and seemed to want to laugh. "It's not bad. It's too good. Almost too good. Your body is like it was molded by a god with obsessive compulsive disorder. Every muscle, every bone, every organ, all are balanced and perfect to a frightening degree." Li Qi was amazed and touched the muscles on Xue Jing's forearm as if he was stroking a rare treasure. "If I hadn't been sure that I was nothing worth coveting, I would have regarded you as an artificial genius created by those big companies using technology. I didn't expect that there would be such a perfect human body in the world." Xue Jing narrowed his eyes. "There is no doubt that this is because of the skill panel. Since activating the skill panel, especially activating the fighting skill, his body has become like this. To some extent, he is indeed the artificial genius that Li Qi mentioned." Xue Jing. Li Qi looked at him with a lot more eagerness. "Without a doubt, you are the most suitable person in the world to practice Hidden Dragon style. If it is you, I believe you can practice the most perfect Hidden Dragon style Kung Fu." Kung Fu. Xue Jing's eyes moved. He heard a new word again. Li Qi smiled and said, "The so-called Gangti is the physique that is gradually tempered after practicing a whole set of martial arts of a school. Each school has different martial arts training methods and fighting styles, each with its own emphasis, either flexibility and swiftness, or strong force. People who practice different martial arts will eventually develop a physique that adapts to martial arts. Just like a sprinter's leg muscles must be more developed, the muscle structure of a fighter is completely different from that of a basketball player. This kind of body that is trained to adapt to different things is a Gangti. For example, the Jinfeng Dojo, their school is called Jinfeng Beihang Sword. When the Gangti is fully developed, the internal structure of the body is completely different from that of an ordinary person, and can generate a force as sharp as a knife. Hitting someone with a fist is like cutting someone with a knife. A large piece of meat will fall off with a pull, and it is not difficult to cut off a person's head with a palm knife. Xue Jing's eyes lit up when he heard this. "Then what are the characteristics of the Gangti of our Kanglang school?" Li Qi smiled. "We can say that our Kanglang school has some characteristics of Gangti, but we can also say that we don't have any." Xue Jing. HMM. Li Qi said somewhat complacently, "Hexagonal warriors, do you know? The core concept of our Kanglang style is 8 words. Hide the dragon in the body, raise the dragon in the heart. Once the body is fully developed, there will be a whole real dragon hidden in the body, which can be big or small, can rise or hide, agile, fast, strong, defensive, penetrating. It has everything and is all-encompassing. It has 5 killer moves and 3 mysteries. It can deal with all situations, and has no weaknesses." Then he sighed. Of course, having everything often means that everything is sparse. The Kanglang style has 2 high requirements for physical talent. People who are not talented enough will only become mediocre if they practice the Kanglang style. Even among your senior brothers and sisters, not everyone has enough talent. Although they also practice the Kanglang style, they will find ways to change their training methods and practice other bodies with a different focus. Li Qi patted Xue Jing on the shoulder and said, "Your physical talent is the only one I have ever seen in my life. It is extremely balanced and is the most suitable physical body for the hexagonal concept of the hidden dragon flow. It sounds awesome." Xue Jing said expectantly, "Master, please teach me." Li Qi smiled and said, okay, without further ado, today I will teach you the static stance in the static stance of the hidden dragon flow, the dragon hiding technique. He grabbed Xue Jing's hand and shook it. The power extended into Xue Jing's body through his palm, controlling his movements. Xue Jing involuntarily opened his legs, pressed his torso to the left to the limit, clenched his fists, and put them beside his ears. His whole body was crackling with bones, and his posture was like a dormant dragon. Remember this posture, as well as the corresponding breathing and power, to vibrate the nodes of the body, Li Qi reminded. The hibernating dragon technique. This stance is intended to nourish the dragon's energy by visualizing the dragon's posture, imitating the dragon's appearance, and nurturing a great momentum of dragon energy. When you are proficient in this stance, I will teach you the moving stance shaking armor, which is used to train dragon power. Xue Jing did not speak, concentrating on remembering all the changes in his body and mind at this moment. Please read on. Chapter 31 Junior Brother, you scare me. Xue Jing remained motionless in the standing posture of the dragon hibernation technique. As he breathed, countless hidden nodes in his body were constantly being stimulated. If all these nodes were connected in series with a line, it would be found that their shape was like a dormant real dragon. As time went on, Xue Jing felt his body begin to heat up, tingle and tingle, as if being pricked by countless needles. The blood in his body kept running at high speed, and there was a subtle sound like the gurgling of a stream. After only half an hour, he was sweating profusely and exhaled almost boiling hot air from his mouth and nose. Not only were the nodes in his body numb, itchy, and hot, but they also gradually felt swollen and painful. Xue Jing's breathing became disordered involuntarily, and he could no longer maintain the posture of the dragon hibernation technique. He sat down on the ground, breathing heavily, and fell into a state of hypoxia, as if his lungs were squeezed dry. You have performed a Zilong Shizuangang exercise. Fitness experience plus 98. You have performed a Zilong Shizuangang exercise, and exercise experience plus 89. Xue Jing opened the panel and took a look, and he was pleasantly surprised. Just half an hour of Zilong Shizuangang practice can get 98 fitness experience and 89 exercise experience at the same time. The efficiency is twice as fast as exercising directly in the gym, and you can also gain exercise experience at the same time. But, the first time you practice Zilong Shizuangang, you can last so long. Just as I thought, you are too suitable for Kanglang Liu. Li Qi sat in the wheelchair and exclaimed with joy. Besides you, the one with the best physical talent among the direct disciples is your senior brother Meng Boshan. When he first practiced Zilong Shizuangang, he lasted for 23 minutes. You are 10 centimeters longer than him. 10 minutes. Xue Jing. 10 what? Say it again. How is it? Have you memorized the specific steps of Zilong Shu? Li Qi asked. Xue Jing took a breath, closed his eyes and thought for a while, then nodded. I remember everything. Thank you, master. The Zilong art has countless complex details. It is not easy to get the posture right, not to mention the stimulation of the nodes by the circulation of strength and blood in the body, which is more than 10 times more difficult than the posture. If such a complex stance is practiced with ordinary methods, it is unknown how long it will take to remember it. But Li Qi relied on his miraculous strength control and just shook Xue Jing's hand, and he made him do the most standard Zilong art stance, allowing him to focus on remembering all the steps. This teaching method is simply a dimensionality reduction attack. Good body and good brain. Li Qi nodded with great satisfaction. Xue Jing rested for a while, breathing steadily, and when he felt himself recovered, he asked, Master, what should I learn next? Li Qi shook his head and said, you shouldn't rush into practicing martial arts. The sleeping dragon technique puts a huge burden on the body. People who are not talented enough will be seriously injured after standing for a few minutes. Although you have good talent, you can't overtrain in the beginning. I have asked Xue Jing to prepare the sleeping dragon cream. I'll ask her to massage you later to help you recover, and then we can continue practicing tomorrow. Xue Jing hesitated and said, let senior sister Zhu massage me? Thinking of that young girl. I don't know if I hurt her yesterday. Li Qi waved his hand and said, she offered to help you. Xue Jing is 1 year younger than you, and has a rare pure and innocent heart. Although she is nominally your senior sister, it is inevitable that she needs your care. You have become my disciple, and the child finally has a playmate of the same age as her. She will be closer to you. You two should get along well." Xue Jing nodded in response. "Ahaha, the sleeping dragon queen is here." As if waiting for this opportunity, a childish and cheerful girl's voice suddenly came from the door of the training room. Xue Jing walked in holding a fist-sized porcelain white medicine bottle. Her young face was full of smiles, and she seemed not to be affected by being defeated by Xue Jing yesterday. "Well, you young people should have a good chat. I got up early and have to go to sleep." Leaky waved his hand and turned his wheelchair out of the training room. As soon as he left, Xue Jing looked at Xue Jing. "Come on, junior brother, take off your shirt and come over here." Sitting on the ground in a duck-like posture, Xue Jing patted the floor and motioned Xue Jing to sit in front of her. The girl, wearing a slim-fitting training suit, had her hair tied into a bun and a pair of beautiful bare feet without macup. In the duck-like posture that showed off her feminine beauty, she had a kind of a mature but seductive charm. Xue Jing always felt that something was wrong, but it was difficult to refuse at this time, so he could only nod, grab the bottom edge of his t-shirt with both hands, and lift it up, exposing his perfect upper body that looked like it was forged by a god. "Wow," Xue Jing exclaimed. "You're quite good, junior brother." "Senior sister Zhu, you're too kind." Xue Jing came to the girl, turned his back to her, and sat cross-legged. After a while, Xue Jing felt that a pair of soft and slightly cold hands were applying ointment on his back. Wherever the ointment was applied, there was a hot and spicy feeling, as if it was smeared with wind oil. In silence, Xue Jing thought for a moment and said, "Sister, I'm really sorry for yesterday. Are you not injured?" Xue Jing paused while applying the ointment, and then said with a smile, "Of course not. But although my body is not injured, my heart is a little hurt." The girl's fingers wandered on Xue Jing's back, and suddenly she exerted force and pressed hard on a certain place. The force penetrated his body, and Xue Jing gasped in pain on the spot. Xue Jing's smiling voice sounded in Xue Jing's ears, and her breath was as sweet as orchid. "Junior brother, don't look at me like this. I'm actually quite competitive." The girl turned her fingers and scraped Xue Jing's muscles hard. "Don't move. The dragon sleeping cream can penetrate deep into the body in this way, and the effect will be better." Xue Jing turned his head and glanced at the smiling Xue Jing. He didn't say anything, silently enduring the massage that was obviously a little vindictive. After a while, the girl couldn't hold it anymore. "Why don't you say something?" the girl said coquettishly. Xue Jing said in a low voice, "It's nothing, as long as you are happy, senior sister." Xue Jing. "Okay, it's my fault. I lost to you because of my carelessness, but I still wanted to take revenge and took the opportunity to deliberately tease you, junior brother. Please don't be angry with me." Xue Jing said aggrievedly. Xue Jing was speechless. After thinking for a while, he said softly, "I'm not angry with you, it's just that it does hurt a little, so I can't help but lower my voice." "Go on, senior sister, don't worry about me." Seeing that he really didn't look angry, Takia Marine breathed a sigh of relief and patted Lele, who had begun to take shape. "That's good, junior brother, you scared me. Happy New Year, dear readers." Chapter 32, Is the dragon cult going to be sent? Okay, the upper body is done. You can take off your pants. Xue Jing patted Xue Jing's broad shoulders and said with a smile, "Well, I'll do it myself below. Don't bother me." Xue Jing paused and said a little unnaturally, "I'm kidding." Xue Jing's eyes were full of smiles, and she seemed to find Xue Jing's embarrassment very interesting. "Junior brother, you are so cute." "Okay, then I'll go do my homework first." "Junior brother, follow my method just now. Apply the sleeping dragon cream and use your strength to massage. I'm leaving first." The girl stood up, said goodbye, and left the training room with brisk steps. After she left, Xue Jing took off his pants and followed Xue Jing's method just now, enduring the pain while applying the medicine and massaging his legs with strength. The sleeping dragon cream is indeed the secret medicine of the hidden dragon dojo. It has outstanding efficacy. It was hot and painful at first, but soon I felt a warm and comfortable feeling on the massaged area. My body, which was swollen and painful due to practicing the hidden dragon technique, felt much better. My body has not recovered yet, and I can't continue to practice for the time being. Xue Jing has nothing to do here, so he left the hidden dragon dojo and took the bus back home. The cat still didn't wake up at this time. Xue Jing didn't disturb it, but turned on the computer in the room. After he found that the cat had touched the computer, he set up a hidden screen recording software and set it to start automatically when the computer was turned on. I don't know if he recorded what the cat was doing. After more than 10 seconds of boot time, Xue Jing used the shortcut key to open the screen recording software and then opened the video folder. Sure enough, he found a video. He subconsciously turned his head to look at the cat still sleeping on the bed, hesitated for a moment, and still opened the video. In the video, on the computer desktop, the mouse slowly moved to the browser. It seemed that the operation was very slow because of the inconvenience of the cat's claws. After opening the browser, Meo first entered a certain URL in the address bar. After entering, she downloaded a software with a garbled name in a hidden location. After a series of operations that Xue Jing couldn't understand, the software was successfully installed. After the software was opened, no screen popped up, only a small icon appeared in the lower right corner. Then Meo opened the browser again and entered another address. After a few seconds of connection, a website called Inside World appeared in the video. This seems to be a forum website with many sub-channels. Banned Drug Trading Zone, Xenoplant Trading Zone, Bounty Order Zone, Border Hunter Zone. At this time, an advertisement popped up on the interface. Are you still troubled by the constant noise from your neighbors? Are you still angry about your partner who betrayed you? Are you still having a headache because of the existence of your competitors? The Kill Me app is at your service. You will die when you place an order. It is a quick solution that saves time and effort. Place an order now and get a free death form selection package for the first order. Xue Jing. In the video, Meo didn't seem to even look at it and just zed it out. Then, it did not enter any channel, but clicked the login button in the upper right corner. After entering the account and password, it successfully logged in. The username was Master, and the avatar was a Q version anthropomorphic dragon. The mouse moved and clicked to enter the personal interface. There was a private chat function on it. After opening it, a chat interface popped up. History records, October 10th, 10:29. Master, I'm still alive, and I'm safe now. Don't worry. October 10th, 21:39. Dragon Believer, Master. It's great that you are still alive. October 10th, 22:46. Dragon Believer, Master. Canned Company is hunting us down. Everyone wants to disband. We can't stay in the 5th Metropolitan Circle anymore. October 11th, 1:23. Dragon Believer, alas, Mr. Uran said that the old master is dead. It's useless to insist on. He took a taxi and left at night. October 11th, 8:31. Dragon Believer, Miss G said she wanted to go to the 3rd Metropolitan Circle to seek refuge with relatives. Then, a series of so-and-so left. October 13th, 12:18. Dragon Believer, Master, what should we do? So many people have run away. In the video, the cat starts typing. Because the cat claw one fingers in is not convenient, it just jumps out letter by letter, very slowly. October 14th, 15:26. Master, very good, much quieter. After replying, Meo clicked X. Cleared the browsing history, uninstalled the suspected VPN software, and then clicked shutdown. After watching the video, Xue Jing pinched his chin and thought, it seems that the dragon sect will be sent soon. But fortunately, Meo didn't seem too sad about it. He just sent a very good when he left. Xue Jing stood up, walked to the bed, reached out and touched the sleeping Meo's head. His eyes were soft, and he chuckled. If there is nowhere to go, it's also good to stay with me all the time. The next day, Monday, after Xue Jing got up in the morning, his body, which was swollen and painful due to practicing the sleeping dragon technique, had completely recovered. I don't know if it was because the sleeping dragon cream was too effective or the healthcare was working. After making a meal for Mayo as usual, he went out and came to school. Then he went straight to the Kingdom campus and entered the 7th floor of the library. In order to activate the active effect of twins, we still have to continue looking for clues to the divine relic. After getting the specific name from Mau this time, it is much more efficient to find it. It feels like the books and files that have nothing to do with the 3 words divine relic can be directly skipped. Classmate, you come here every day. What information are you looking for? Maybe I can help you. A soft and pleasant voice came to his ears, and Xue Jing turned his head to look. He found that the high ponytail girl who had been staying on the 7th floor was standing next to him. On her pretty face, her purple eyes were looking at him. The girl was wearing a pure white slim t-shirt and holding a book in her arms with both hands. The upper half of the book was suppressed in the well-developed southern hemisphere, so the title of the book could not be seen. Xue Jing subconsciously opened the panel and took a look. The charm did not move. Obviously, this was a purely kind inquiry without any other purpose. He stuffed the book in his hand back on the bookshelf and casually replied, "Are you a student of King University?" The girl said, "Well, I think so." Xue Jing hesitated for a moment, and although he didn't hold out hope, he still said, "Have you heard of divine relics?" Hearing this word, the girl's expression was obviously stunned, and then she smiled. "It seems that you are not an ordinary student." Xue Jing raised his eyebrows. "You really know this thing?" "I know a little." The girl stretched out her hand and made a gesture of invitation to the rest area. "Let's go over there and sit down and talk slowly." Transition chapter. Please read. Chapter 33 The Day God Died, God 1567. The girl sat upright on a wooden chair, her slender legs in tight jeans slightly closed. Her delicate face was so white that it almost glowed, and her waist-length ponytail swayed gently. She placed her right hand on her full conscience and introduced herself with a smile. "My name is Wu Yaoqing. U for childish, King for sunny day." Xue Jing also introduced himself. Xue Jing, with the character Wang, and Jing for scenery. "Well, first of all, how did you come across the concept of divine relics?" Wu Yaoqing asked curiously. "Sorry, I can't say that." Xue Jing shook his head. The cat should still be being hunted by Kant Security Company at this moment, and its news must not be disclosed casually. I can only tell you that I did come into contact with the divine relics. If possible, I hope you can provide me with information about the divine relics. Xue Jing said carefully. "Of course, it doesn't matter if you don't want to say it. I can't provide information first. This is my problem." Wu Yaoqing did not express dissatisfaction with Xue Jing's unclear statement. She pinched her chin and tilted her head and said, "So the divine relic you encountered, is it a strange object type or a biological type?" "There are biological types of divine relics?" Xue Jing asked in surprise. This also answered Wu Yaoqing's question indirectly. She nodded. "It seems that you encountered a strange object type." After the girl finished speaking, she thought about it, stood up, walked to the wall of the rest area, squatted down, and pulled out a very inconspicuous wooden handle on the wall. There was actually a secret compartment cabinet in the wall. Because of the squatting girl's posture, the curve of her hips was very obvious, and her presence was extremely strong against the background of her slender waist. Xue Jing couldn't help but take a few more glances. Tight jeans are also very civilized. I thought Wu Yaoqing would take out some secret information from such a hidden place, but I didn't expect her to take out a bunch of tea sets and a transparent kettle filled with water and put them on the wooden table. "Do you like tea or coffee?" Wu Yaoqing asked, while wiping the tea sets with a cloth. "Only 2 choices?" Xue Jing looked at the secret compartment. "And this?" The girl turned around and took out a 330 milliliters modern can of Coca-Cola from the secret compartment. Although this world has taken a different historical trajectory from the Earth in the previous life, everything that should appear has still appeared. Xue Jing reached out to take it. "This is it." Wu Yaoqing didn't give it to him, but took out the blue patterned gold-plated carved porcelain cup from the tea tray, twisted the pull ring on the aluminum can with a snap, poured the black carbonated liquid into the exquisite cup, and then pushed it in front of Xue Jing with 2 fingers, like a bartender in a bar. Xue Jing's mouth twitched. It's very particular. The girl didn't reply. She took out a bag of tea leaves of an unknown brand from the side, tore it open, poured it into the teapot, and then picked up the transparent kettle to pour water into it. The water was actually hot, and no one knew when it was boiled. Steam kept coming out as soon as it came into contact with the air. While making tea, Wu Yaoqing said, 287 years ago, God died. Or to put it more strictly, God died. Xue Jing listened quietly. The death of God is the biggest thing that has ever happened in this world. Even though so much time has passed, it is still talked about with relish. But in the final analysis, whether the dead God is the omniscient and omnipotent Lord in the Christian Bible is impossible to confirm, so the official statement recognized by the world is the death of God. God is the God of this world. He has no name. He is just the God in the human cognitive concept. Other names are imposed on him by humans themselves. You can call him God, Allah, Brahma, or Yuan Shishianzan if you like. The reason why he is commonly called God is that the concept of God in Christianity is deeply rooted in people's hearts and is relatively the most consistent with the definition of God 287 years ago. God appeared in the material world for the first time, and it was also the last time. According to historical records, on that day, all humans on the Earth star saw with their own eyes, or observed in an unknown way, that a huge luminous human figure holding the Earth star in his hands, after a huge and shrill wail, scattered into countless light points. At that moment, the three words God is dead were engraved into the consciousness of every human being like a thought stamp. It was also from that day that the two-world overlap phenomenon would occur from time to time on this planet. After the steps of world shock, weak overlap and strong overlap, various intersections were born. The emergence of the intersection brought countless opportunities and crises to mankind. The administrative divisions of the 9 metropolitan areas of Xue today are the result of a historical legacy of a border crisis. What most people don't know is that the god left something behind when he died. Wu Yaoqing stirred the liquid in the teacup with a small spoon and began to tell the origin of the god's relics. The light spots that spread out when the god died, let's call it God's blood for the time being. These God's blood are scattered all over the world and are hosted on various things, or objects, or creatures, or even a human fantasy. These things that have been hosted and transformed by the God's blood, we call them God's relics. Xue Jing was listening in a trance. At this time, Wu Yaoqing also pushed the teacup with tea in front of him. Try it. Xue Jing took it, picked up the teacup absent-mindedly, took a sip, and swallowed it. Then, he immediately frowned and looked at the tea in the cup. The brown-red liquid looked very obvious as black tea, and the slightly bitter fragrance of black tea was also smelled in the nose. But when he drank it, he tasted a strange sweetness. What is this? Guess. Wu Yaoqing said. Her eyes were mischievous, and she seemed to be a little proud of having successfully played a prank on someone. Not knowing what he thought of, Xue Jing subconsciously said, it can't be Yaoqing tea. As soon as he said it, he immediately realized that this was a bit inappropriate, but he thought that a beautiful girl like Wu Yaoqing should not be exposed to these things, and he thought she would not understand the meaning of this. Before he could finish his self-defense, he immediately saw a blush on Wu Yaoqing's pretty face, and she looked at him with a strange look, as if saying, I didn't expect you to be such a Xue Jing. Xue Jing coughed lightly, don't keep me in suspense, sister. Wu Yaoqing rolled her eyes at him, raised the transparent kettle with one hand, supported the bottom with the other hand, and introduced, serial number God 1567 sweet water kettle. God's relic? God's relic. Divine matter, right in front of us. Please read it. Chapter 34 please, let me join your team. Is this the divine relic? Xue Jing narrowed his eyes, pretending to be attracted, and unconsciously reached out to the sweet water kettle. Seeing this, Wu Yaoqing did not refuse, but directly handed the sweet water kettle in his hand to him. Divine substance detected, absorbing divinity. Looking at the prompt on the panel, Xue Jing blinked, suppressed his excitement, took the sweet water kettle in his arms without changing his expression, and touched it curiously. On the panel, divinity began to rise at a rate of several points per second. 26, 27, 28. Why don't you guess what the specific function of God 1567 is? Wu Yaoqing, who didn't know that Xue Jing was secretly performing some strange operations, looked at his unworldly appearance and said with some amusement. Xue Jing thought for a while and said, the water poured out is sweet without adding sugar, and it also has the function of hot water out of thin air. Combining the name of this divine relic, plus what he saw and felt before, he expressed his speculation. That's about it. Guess again. Wu Yaoqing said. Xue Jing heard this and looked at the kettle in his hand carefully. He always felt that something was wrong. The divinity on the panel increased with time. Xue Jing suddenly frowned and said uncertainly, the amount of water doesn't seem to have decreased. The kettle is made of transparent material, and the amount of water inside can be clearly seen. When it was taken out, the water inside was full. Wu Yaoqing just used it to make a pot of tea and poured out a lot of water, but when Xue Jing looked at it at this time, the water in the kettle was clearly still full. He thought of a somewhat incredible guess. The water in this kettle is infinite? Wu Yaoqing was slightly surprised when she heard this, then nodded with a hint of satisfaction on her pretty face and said, you guessed well. God 1567 sweet water kettle. Its function is, it can produce hot water with the same physical properties as ordinary water, but with a strange sweet taste. She paused, and the water inside can never be poured out. As an outstanding student of King affiliated high school, you should understand what this means. The girl smiled. Xue Jing certainly understood what this meant. Ignoring the law of conservation of energy, he murmured, matter is energy, and infinite water is infinite energy. This sweet water kettle can continuously output infinite energy to the outside world without consuming any energy. On the surface, the function of this sweet water kettle seems to be ordinary, but in fact it is one of the ultimate dreams of mankind. The first type of perpetual motion machine. If we talk about it in a big way, this thing is a real existence that can subvert the basic laws of the universe. This is of great significance. This is a relic of God. Wu Yaoqing leaned back slightly, her slender legs in tight jeans folded together, like a queen. Its existence itself symbolizes irrationality, as if it is a prank of God. On the panel, divinity has risen to 200. In order to hold it for a longer time, Xue Jing began to make small talk. Such a useful relic of God, is it only used to make tea? Wu Yaoqing replied, do you think it is the best use, to make a perpetual motion machine with it? Xue Jing nodded. Although it is just an ordinary sized kettle, the efficiency of discharging water will not exceed 1000 milliliters per second, but with its unlimited output, it is enough to find a way to make it into a perpetual motion machine with limited output, and its role can be said to be quite huge. In particular, the water poured out of the kettle is still hot water. The way humans use most energy is just to boil water in fancy ways. Since God 1567 was discovered, the first person to get it had this idea, but it's impossible. Over the years, humans have summarized 5 laws from the study of thousands of divine relics. Wu Yaoqing stretched out her right hand, opened her 5 fingers, and then closed them to leave only the index finger. One of them is that divine relics have the ability to randomly transfer. No matter how good the containment measures are, it's useless. Any divine relic has the ability to randomly transfer with unknown triggering conditions. It may transfer to other places at any time. There is no pattern, it is unpredictable, and it is impossible to intercept it at all. In the case that the sweet water kettle may disappear and transfer at any time, it is impossible to spend a lot of time and billions of funds to make a perpetual motion machine with it as the power source. This will only waste manpower and material resources. The girl talked freely. I see. Xue Jing nodded in agreement. In this way, this kettle is not as useful as imagined. Its perpetual motion characteristics are unreplicable and cannot be theoretically used in other places. It can also transfer at any time and cannot be used as a power source for a perpetual motion machine. The result is that such a divine relic with great significance is actually just a toy that can pour out sweet hot water. No wonder Wu Yaoqing put it here to waste away the gift of nature. In short, all divine relics are similar to God 1567, and they are more or less beyond human scientific cognition. They are neither reasonable nor physical, said the girl. Xue Jing listened to Wu Yaoqing's introduction while watching the progress on the panel. Possessing divinity. 397. I didn't expect that such a wonderful thing existed in the world, Xue Jing said with emotion. You just believe it? Wu Yaoqing raised her eyebrows. Don't you need to test the authenticity? Aren't you afraid that I'm lying to you? Maybe this pot of water was just boiled in advance, with some sugar added, and there is a secret compartment inside to add water? Xue Jing shook his head and said seriously, no need, I believe you. The reaction of the panel is the perfect proof. Wu Yaoqing snorted softly, naive. Then she couldn't help laughing again, but it's cute. She reached out to take the sweet water kettle back from Xue Jing. The latter saw her action and said calmly, sister, do you want to drink water? I'll help you pour it. After that, she stood up, took a teacup from the tea tray, filled it with the kettle, and pushed it in front of Wu Yaoqing. The girl didn't say much, took back her hand that wanted to take the kettle, then picked up the cup, opened her red lips, and took a sip, frowning slightly. The water in God 1567 is just sweet. There is no sugar in the actual ingredient list. It is exactly the same as ordinary water. It's a pity that this sweetness is too greasy and the taste is not very good. Otherwise, it can be used to make real sugar-free desserts. Wu Yaoqing said with a little regret. Divine absorption completed. Possessing divine. 502. Finally, the active effect of twins can be activated. Xue Jing resisted the urge to jump up and celebrate, put the sweet water bottle on the wooden table, thought for a moment, turned to Wu Yaoqing, and asked in confusion, sister, I'm very curious, why do you know so much, and why did you tell me? The girl smiled slightly, rummaged through a small bag on the chair next to her, took out a business card, and handed it to Xue Jing. Introduce myself again. I, Wu Yaoqing. Xue Jing took the business card, and looked at the handwriting on it. CEO of Wu's Divine Relics Conservation and Research Co. Limited. I hope you. The girl had just said half of her words when Xue Jing, who had read the business card, left his seat, walked up to her, and shook her hand sincerely. Please let me join your team, good sister. Wu Yaoqing. Please read more. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. D-Level God Relic Receiver. Twins actively unlock. Divine Relics Collection Company. What kind of divine unit is this? You must enter. As soon as you hear it, you know that you can touch a lot of divine relics. For him, what's the difference between this and letting a mouse into a rice jar? At present, the only source of divinity is divine relics. The opportunity to have more contact with divine relics is absolutely not to be missed. He has not yet fully understood the role of divinity, but just one twin is enough to let him know its importance. If he touches more divine relics, what if one or more divine skills are activated in the future? Damn, if he can have an unreasonable divine skill like twin, who in the world can resist it? Well, I was planning to invite you to join. Since you are also interested, it can't be better. Wu Yaoqing was stunned for a long time, before replying with a strange look. Then where is our company? I don't mean anything else, I just want to visit it. Xue Jing said calmly. The girl took something out of her bag and said, our company's headquarters is not in Qingcheng. It's a bit far from here. I'll take you there later. Xue Jing's eyes showed obvious disappointment. Wu Yaoqing smiled and said, it seems that you are really interested in divine relics. There may be no one in the world who likes divine relics more than me for the time being. Xue Jing sighed. Wu Yaoqing nodded with satisfaction when she heard it. That's the best. What our company needs most is employees like you. She took out a document from her bag and pushed it in front of Xue Jing. On the cover were 5 words vertically, employment agreement. Xue Jing picked up the document, opened it and flipped through it. This is a contract agreement for the position of Divine Relic Receiver. What was written inside was not much different from a general labor contract, but there were some confidentiality agreements, such as not to disclose the work you are doing to the outside world, not to disclose the relevant research information of the divine relics that the company has received, etc. There are also some welfare and insurance agreements, such as compensation for disability, death, etc. during the detention process. Is this detention officer very dangerous? Xue Jing asked. Wu Yaoqing nodded, then shook her head. Divine relics are divided into D, C, B, and A according to their inherent danger. You have just joined the company and are a D-level containment worker. The company will only assign you D level, which is the harmless level divine relic containment work. For divine relics of this level, as long as you carry out the containment work in full accordance with the designated steps, there will be basically no danger. If you grow in the future and are promoted to C level, which is the dangerous level, or B high dangerous level, then you will be involved in truly dangerous work. Xue Jing suddenly realized, I see. By the way, what about A level? A level is the highest dangerous level. The harm caused by divine relics of this level is immeasurable. It may even affect an entire city or even an entire country. Some are enough to cause global impacts. You don't have to worry about A-level divine relics for the time being. The appearance of divine relics of this level is not something that one person or one company can handle. At that time, official agencies will take action. Wu Yaoqing explained. Xue Jing nodded. One last question. Why did you choose me to be a shelter? Even if I have come into contact with divine relics before, it does not mean that I'm qualified to be a shelter. You can see at a glance that this job requires sufficient professional ability. On what basis did you judge that I can become a shelter? Wu Yaoqing knew nothing about him. She didn't know that he had a facepalot, that he was practicing martial arts, or how powerful he would be in the future. Just because he had encountered divine relics before, she wanted to recruit him as an employee. It was actually quite strange to think about it. Looking at the facepalot, there was no movement of the charm technique, and it was obvious that the other party was not attracted by beauty. Wu Yaoqing heard this, and a smile flashed in her beautiful eyes. You are wrong about one thing, she said softly. It's not you touched the divine relic, but the divine relic touched you. Xue Jing's eyes flashed, as if he understood something. You mean, over the years, after studying the divine relics, we have roughly deduced that the divine relics themselves should have a certain degree of personal will. Wu Yaoqing stretched out her hand and stroked God 1567. They will take the initiative to approach those who attract them. These divine relics may have some power to influence fate. You think you encountered the divine relics by coincidence, but maybe this is not a coincidence. It's not that you found the divine relics, but that the divine relics found you. Wu Yaoqing said word by word. People who can attract divine relics are very rare. In fact, as long as you enter our company, you don't have to do anything. It is estimated that the probability of our company encountering divine relics will also increase greatly. I'm such a person myself, and it is because of this special physique that I eventually became the CEO of this company. Even the fate of you and I meeting here may be affected by the divine relics. Wu Yaoqing smiled. Now you understand why I want you to be a receiver in our company. Xue Jing suddenly realized. So that's how it is. No wonder the salary is so generous. Xue Jing glanced at the monthly salary of 200,000 yuan in the agreement, as well as the various share subsidies after successfully receiving the divine relics. Xue Jing said sincerely, it doesn't matter whether there is a salary or not. The main thing is that I like divine relics. I'm willing to join your company, good sister. After signing the employment agreement with Wu Yaoqing, exchanging contact information, and agreeing to contact him when there is divine relic collection work, Xue Jing left the library. He first went to the teacher's office in the comprehensive building of the attached high school, asked for leave from the class teacher Du Shui, and then hurried back home. After entering the door, he went straight to the gym, sat cross-legged in the center of the room, and opened the panel. Twin LV1, Divinity required for upgrade. 500 and 200ths, passive, possessed to lives, can freely choose the time of resurrection within 7 days after death. Cooldown time, 3 months. Active, unlocked, unlocking condition, Divinity 502/500. Currently unlockable, Divine Avatar, unlocked, unlocking condition, Divinity 502/2000. Level reaches LV10. Xue Jing took a deep breath and clicked to unlock the active effect. Unlocked active. Each LV1 can specify an ability related to your own body, which will produce double effect when used. Currently available options: physical strength, physical defense, action speed, reaction speed, calculation ability, concentration, memory. There were dozens or hundreds of options later, and Xue Jing didn't look carefully. Specify an ability to produce double effect. Xue Jing pinched his chin and said, "In other words, if I choose physical strength, then I can have double strength when using twin?" A bit subtle. This ability seems quite powerful, but it also seems not worthy of the twin's powerful passive effects. Is there something he hasn't noticed yet? Xue Jing fell into deep thought. What should I choose for the first ability? Please read on. I appreciate the monthly rewards from all the readers. Thank you very much. Chapter 36: Divine Skills Beyond Physics. Physical strength, action speed, physical defense. Xue Jing's eyes moved back and forth between these three items. Without a doubt, these three items are definitely the three choices that can add the most to his combat power at this stage. The rest, such as reaction speed, perception ability, instinct intuition, are also good, but obviously, at present, the effect is not as direct as the three items of speed, strength and defense. After thinking for a while, Xue Jing first ruled out physical defense. With the twin passive resurrection effects, he does not really need this life-saving ability at present. Moreover, as a stone-throwing immortal, he will definitely not get close to an enemy he cannot defeat, so physical defense is dispensable. The only thing left is strength or speed. After thinking about it, Xue Jing still chose action speed. Now that he has a set of skills, his physical strength is not weak. If combined with strength, it is still easy to deal with human-level bodies. Senior Sister Takia Maraying, who was described by Mayo as much stronger than him, also fainted on the spot under his shoulder throw. Although it was because the opponent did not use force defense, it can be found that the martial artist is a bit like a glass cannon, with high attack and low defense. But speed is different. This is an attribute that is always scarce and never too fast. There is nothing in the world of martial arts that is invincible, only speed is invincible. Xue Jing clicked on action speed. In an instant, he instinctively understood how to use the active effect of twin, as if breathing. Twin, start. The next moment, Xue Jing's whole person was like the video was pressed on the acceleration key, and the whole person's action speed suddenly doubled. He stood up, walked to the side of the vertical sandbag, and used his strength to punch it out. The speed of the whole process was incredibly fast. This feeling. Xue Jing was stunned, his eyes showing thought. Then, he tested it again, straightened the vertical sandbag, and punched it again, which was also incredibly fast, as if the acceleration key was pressed. The vertical sandbag flew out again, and hit the wall. So that's it. Is it really like this? He muttered. One last test. Xue Jing walked out of the house, out of the community, and came to the small garden track where he jogged every morning. It was already 8 or 9 in the morning, and it was Monday again. Most people were at work or school. There were few people in the garden, only a few grandpas and aunts were walking and doing boxing for fitness. Xue Jing took out his mobile phone, turned on the timing function, and after confirming that no one around him was looking at him, he pressed the start button on the phone. In an instant, he was like a cannonball ejected from the gun, running forward, at a speed that humans could not reach at all, like a meteor across the runway. In a few seconds, he ran half a lap, then stopped and pressed the stop button on the phone. 5.12 seconds. The total length of this runway is 200 meters, and half a lap is 100 meters. It only took 5.12 seconds. I see. Is this the true face of the active effect of twin? Xue Jing's eyes revealed surprise. Ignoring any physical laws, it will directly multiply your own speed by 2. It's just a simple, conceptual thing, and it doubled my speed. Xue Jing was pleasantly surprised. You know, physical training has diminishing marginal effects. It's relatively easy for a person to increase his running speed from 20 seconds to 12 seconds for 100 meters, as long as he persists in high intensity training for a period of time. But after 12 seconds, due to air resistance, physical limits and other factors, the effort required for each 0.1 second increase is 100 or 1000 times the previous one. Once it reaches the 10-second range, it's even more exaggerated. Every 0.01 second increase is a very incredible improvement, which cannot be achieved without sufficient talent and sufficient resources. But now, the twins had directly ignored this point and made his speed simply doubled. From 10.24 seconds, it has directly become 5.12 seconds. Imagine that he is in a thrilling melee with someone where he can't make any mistakes, and suddenly he turns on twins, and his speed is twice as fast. What kind of concept is that? This was a sudden acceleration that was totally against common sense and intuition. No one could have predicted it. It was a sure shot hit. This was the twin, a divine skill that transcended physics. Unfortunately, it was really just a simple doubled speed. The attack power was still calculated according to the original physical properties. Speed is weight, and the faster the punch, the higher the attack. However, the twin only doubled his speed, which meant that, even if he could punch at the speed of sound after his speed was increased by x2, the kinetic energy that was released was still the kinetic energy at the original speed, not the kinetic energy of the sonic punch. Even so, he still felt that the twin speed could be described as invincible. So, the twins' physical strength and physical defense would also ignore the laws of physics and be doubled. Xue Jing thought of this and suddenly felt a little restless. He had to quickly get 17 or 18 divine relics to suck. I'm so thirsty. He picked up his phone and glanced at Wu Yaoqing in the contacts. This is his only way to get access to the divine relics, and he doesn't know how long it will take to work. Sighing, Xue Jing collected his thoughts. He was about to continue testing the effect of the twin speed, but suddenly found that it seemed that it couldn't be used. He opened the panel and took a look. The originally glittering, golden, twin LV1 became dim. There is still a cooldown time. Xue Jing's mouth moved. He looked carefully at the twin on the panel, and the golden light on the word was recovering little by little. Just now, it took more than 5 seconds to run, plus the use at home just now. Xue Jing calculated it a little bit, and it seemed that it took about 20 seconds of twin speed, and it went into cooldown. In this case, the use of this trick must be more calculated. I don't know how long the cooldown time is, and whether the use time will be increased after upgrading. A ban. Is this your limit? Xue Jing was a little disappointed. When he returned home, the cat had already woken up and was curled up on the sofa in the living room, watching cartoons on TV and licking its messy fur. Seeing Xue Jing coming back, it yawned, revealing a few sharp teeth. Didn't you go to school? Why are you back so soon? Xue Jing smiled and said, I missed the master so much that I couldn't help but ask for leave and come back. This sentence was originally a joke he made in a good mood after activating the twins. But what Xue Jing didn't expect was that the cat was stunned for a moment after hearing it and then turned its face away with its back to him. Is that so? The young girl's voice seemed to carry a hint of shyness, and the cat's tail, which couldn't hide its mood, couldn't help shaking slightly. Xue Jing. If he said I was kidding now, would he be scratched to death on the spot? Please read and vote for me please. Chapter 37, Cheating Twin Speed. In the afternoon, Xue Jing watched the twins on the panel glow with a pale golden glow again, and experimented again, and came to a conclusion. The usage time is about 20 seconds. After all of it is used up, it takes about 6 hours to restore to a 20-second cooldown. Cooling recovery is always going on. Suppose I use 1 second of twin speed, and there are 19 seconds left. 1/20th of 6 hours is 18 minutes, which means that I will be restored to a full 20-second usage time after 18 minutes. Xue Jing experimented with detailed usage data. There is no way the usage time of LV1 twins is too short, so I have to be more careful. Speaking of which, my practice of the hibernation dragon technique is also an action, which can be accelerated by twin speed. This can directly double the efficiency, but the duration is still too short at present. Let's talk about it in the future. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Xue Jing still did not go to school. He asked for a full day off. taking the bus to Kanglan Dojo. It may be the afternoon shift change. The person sitting at the front desk is not the Cheongsam girl, but another beautiful receptionist who is also wearing Cheongsam. Although she has not seen Xue Jing before, she seems to have been greeted and seen photos in advance. After seeing Xue Jing, she stood up and called him Jingai sweetly, which made Xue Jing feel a little strange. I feel that this title is not much better than Young Master. After entering the dojo, Xue Jing first went to the training hall to take a look. No, your way of exerting force is too rigid. There is an old saying among us martial artists, called training 1,000 pounds of strength and using 4 ounces of power. You only use muscles to exert force in this way, which is dead force, which is not only laborious but also ineffective. In the center of the training hall, Takia Marang was teaching an ordinary disciple, and many disciples around were watching. At the moment Xue Jing walked into the training hall, Zhu Shinying didn't know why, but turned his head and looked towards the door. His eyes, as smart as a newborn animal, suddenly lit up, and he waved at him and shouted happily, "Hi, little junior brother, here, come here." Xue Jing paused slightly, and it was not easy to refuse, so he walked towards the center of the venue. He is the new disciple of the old owner, little senior brother. He looks so good, much better than senior brother Chen. I heard that he defeated senior sister Zhu, and the old owner was amazed by his talent and bowed down on the spot. Who told you that? It's nonsense. Senior sister Zhu was careless at the time and didn't dodge. Many disciples who didn't come to train that day and therefore hadn't seen Xue Jing all cast their curious eyes on this new little senior brother. Junior brother, you came just in time. Let's practice against each other and show them the correct use of strength. Zhu Shinying said with a smile, took Xue Jing's hand, and walked to the ring next to her. The girl's hand was soft and tender, not like a martial artist at all. A man with a weak mind would be taken away by this little hand, but Xue Jing stood still. Zhu Shinying failed to pull, and looked at Xue Jing with some doubts. Well, I'll let it go. I'm not good at learning martial arts. I'm afraid there will be no teaching effect. Xue Jing thought about it and said. Zhu Shinying glared at him. Didn't you beat me? How can you be considered a poor learner? Come on, I will be gentle. It won't hurt at all. Xue Jing remained calm, and he could see that Zhu Shinying still had some intention of getting back at him. He thought about it, nodded, and agreed. Zhu Shinying was overjoyed and pulled Xue Jing to the ring. Such an overly intimate move broke the hearts of countless male disciples. Hey, who do you think will win? Of course, it was senior sister Zhu who was careless last time. Junior brother has just started practicing martial arts. How could he win? Alas, I hope senior sister Zhu will be gentler and don't hurt our junior brother. Damn, this time I guessed it right. I bet 50 cents. Senior sister Zhu wins. The disciples watching were all a little excited. On the ring, the two stood opposite each other. Junior brother, be careful. Zhu Shinying crouched slightly, put his hands in a stance, and reminded Xue Jing. Xue Jing nodded and imitated Zhu Shinying to take a stance, but he had never practiced this. Even the ordinary disciples watching could see that he was a complete amateur in fighting. But Takia Marang had personally experienced the strength of this junior fellow and did not underestimate him. Her beautiful eyes showed a trace of concentration. However, the next moment, she suddenly tilted and fell to the right. It was Xue Jing who suddenly squatted down at an incredible speed and kicked her legs off the ground with a powerful low sweep with his right foot, and the whole person fell to the side. The incident happened suddenly. According to past experience, Takia Marang only focused on the upper body at the beginning, because no opponent would use a long low sweep at the beginning. Unless the opponent is very fast, then naturally he can attack freely. Takia Marang, who suffered a great loss due to insufficient intelligence, was shocked and was about to use her hands to support the ground and regain her balance. However, in the short gap, when she was in midair with no place to borrow strength, Xue Jing had already grabbed her wrist with an unreasonable speed. Bang! Takia Marang lay on the ring, with a blank expression on her face, not knowing what happened. Another shoulder throw, and the same result. This time the girl used her strength to defend herself in advance and did not faint. But it made no difference to her. This was just a competition, not a fight to the death. and she had already lost. The discussion of the disciples around her stopped abruptly and fell into silence. "Thank you, senior sister Zhu." Xue Jing looked at the girl lying on the ground in a daze and said softly. After that, he turned and walked down the ring and walked slowly towards the door of the training hall. Along the way, where Xue Jing walked, all the disciples involuntarily stepped aside, as if there was an invisible wall of air around him, pushing everything away. It was not until Xue Jing left the training hall that the disciples gradually came to their senses and looked at Xue Jing, who was still lying on the ring. "This, senior sister Zhu." A disciple hesitated and said. The girl did not answer, staring at the ceiling in a daze. Xue Jing walked all the way to his own training room, sat cross-legged in the center of the room with solid wood floor, opened the panel, and took a look. The pale golden light emitted by twins dimmed slightly. The sparring with Takia Mirai just now took about 3 seconds of twin speed. The first time this skill was used in actual combat, the effect was just as Xue Jing expected, and even exceeded his expectations. It was so fucking powerful. Not to mention the speed of the skill itself. This kind of unreasonable suddenness was the most terrifying. Takia Mirai had fought with him once before and knew his speed. He had a plan in mind in advance and had no room to react to his sudden increase in speed. As long as you can make good use of this huge contrast in speed, the advantage it brings is really huge. Anyone who has played the game knows how torturous this fast and slow knife is. You have experience to battle. Combat experience plus 97. You have experience to battle. Fitness experience plus 81. You have experience to battle. Feel happy health experience plus 49. You have experience to battle. Aiming experience plus 26. You have experience to battle. Power experience plus 69. Power upgrade to LV2. 9/500. Huh. It doesn't count as a weak victory over a strong one. Xue Jing raised his eyebrows. When he defeated Takia Mirai before, the panel indicated that the weak defeated the strong, but now it doesn't count. It seems that the panel has determined that he is not weaker than Takia Mirai. After activating the twin speed, please read and vote for me! Exclamation mark. Chapter 38 5 Major Trainings, Leaping Over the Dragon Gate. In the practice room, Xue Jing, who had changed into a black training suit, was posing, using his whole body strength to stimulate the nodes, and practicing the Zhuang Shizuangang. The LV2 Jingang allowed him to use his strength to a high level, and the stimulation of the key nodes in the body was more delicate and subtle. The body temperature rose slightly, and sweat oozed out from the pores all over the body, dripping onto the ground, gradually soaking the solid wood floor under his feet into a puddle. This time, Xue Jing persisted for nearly an hour, before he could not help but collapse to the ground, ending the practice of Zhuang. You performed a Zhuang Shizuangang exercise. Fitness experience plus 198. You performed a Zhuang Shizuangang exercise. Jingang experience plus 187. The results were also quite gratifying. Almost twice the gains from the last Zhuang Shu practice. Gradually getting used to it, Xue Jing felt the swelling and pain in various parts of his body. Although the training time this time was longer than the last time, the swelling and pain was less severe. This was not only because of the upgrade of the power, but also because his body was gradually adapting to the sleeping dragon technique. Xue Jing picked up the sleeping dragon cream left in the training room yesterday and began to apply it on himself and massage. In this way, plus the recovery power of health preservation, I feel that I can practice again today. Xue Jing thought to himself. It was still not convenient to apply the medicine alone. After Xue Jing spent more than 10 minutes to finish it, he breathed a sigh of relief and lay on the floor to rest. Junior brother, are you there? Chen Fuguang's shout suddenly came from outside the training room. Xue Jing paused for a moment, sat up, and said, yes, senior brother Chen, please come in. The door was pushed open, and Chen Fuguang, who was wearing casual clothes, walked in with his hands behind his back. Seeing Xue Jing sweating all over, he smiled and said, oh, are you practicing? Xue Jing smiled and nodded. Just finished. I heard from master that the first time you practiced the hibernation dragon technique, you persisted for more than half an hour. Chen Guang sighed. I thought that the devil muscle man like senior brother was outrageous enough, but I didn't expect you to be even more outrageous than him. To be honest, when I practiced it for the first time, I felt too painful after 3 minutes and didn't want to practice anymore, which made Master angry. Chen Guang shook his head. Although the hibernation dragon technique is much simpler and easier to practice than the shaking armor technique, it is also far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Only people like you and senior brother can enjoy it. As soon as the voice fell, a person suddenly jumped in from the open window of the practice room. It was a middle-aged man with a handsome face and waist-length hair. He was about 2 meters tall and had a very sturdy and strong figure. The oversized training suit on his body was stretched tight. The sleeves on both sides were rolled up, revealing the knotty muscles that almost had a metallic luster, which was extremely oppressive. After the middle-aged man jumped in from the window, he landed lightly like a cat, with his toes stepping on the solid wood floor, almost silently, forming a huge contrast with his body size. If this was just a simple flip-in from the window, it would not be a big deal. The problem is, Kanglang Dojo is located on the 17th floor of an office building. Big brother. Chen Guang seemed to be accustomed to it and greeted the middle-aged man leisurely. Xue Jing also came back to his senses in shock and hurriedly said, Big brother. Big brother Meng Bo's hand did not speak, but nodded to Xue Jing, with a barely detectable hook at the corner of his mouth, as if he was smiling but not smiling. Xue Jing was very confused and did not quite understand the attitude of the senior brother towards him. Meng Bo's hand still did not speak, but walked out of the training room in silence, and no one knew where he went. The senior brother is still so unconventional. He always walks around the Kanglang Dojo and enters any window that is open. Chen Guang exclaimed. Xue Jing walked to the window and looked out, confirming that it was indeed the 17th floor outside. The 17th floor must be more than 70 or 80 meters high, right? How did the senior brother get in? Xue Jing asked in confusion. Chen Guang smiled. For warriors of my generation, the restrictions of terrain have never been a problem. Especially for a person like the senior brother, it is not difficult to jump directly from the ground to the 17th floor of the dojo. Jump directly to the 17th floor? How much strength does it take to jump more than 70 meters from the ground? 2 words emerged in Xue Jing's mind. Superman. Big brother is a master who has mastered the 5 major trainings and is about to pass the Dragon Gate. Even the Public Security Bureau has to ask Big Brother for help when they encounter something they can't handle. Chen Guang said, with a hint of pride on his face. 5 major trainings? Leaping the Dragon Gate? Xue Jing looked curious. By the way, little brother, you have just entered the door, and I think you still have a little understanding of martial arts practice, so let me tell you. Chen Guang sat down cross-legged on the solid wood floor. For us martial artists, there are 5 major trainings in terms of the body, which are skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and blood. These 5 are interrelated, and there is no such thing as a state of succession. You can practice them at the same time, or you can focus on one. For example, our Kanglang school practices the 5 major trainings simultaneously, which is the most versatile, without any emphasis. But because of this, people who don't practice well have no characteristics and become mediocre. For those who have perfected the 5 major trainings, their bodies have reached the theoretical extreme of human beings. At this time, if they can go further and break the limits of their human body, it will be like a fish leaping over the Dragon Gate, burning off the mortal tail, and the whole body will undergo a complete transformation, and can continue to climb to a higher peak. It is said that my master more than 20 years ago had reached this state. Chen Guang talked freely. 5 major trainings, leaping over the Dragon Gate. So leaping over the Dragon Gate is the highest state in martial arts? Xue Jing asked curiously. Chen Guang shook his head. I also asked the master this question, and his answer was that there is no end to martial arts. This seemed like nonsense without much practical meaning, but Xue Jing could only nod his head. After all, it was said by the master. But, the master did mention some ancient legends to me. Chen Guang suddenly continued. It is said that ancient warriors circulated a legendary ultimate realm of the flesh, called Treasure Body. Thank you readers for your rewards. Thank you Frostgrass HH for the leader award. I'm flattered. Thank you. Chapter 39 The Legend of the Ancient Supreme Body. What is a treasure body? Xue Jing asked curiously. Chen Fuguang explained. The so-called treasure body refers to the literal meaning, to train one's own body into a treasure. His voice was melodious. In ancient times, there was a poem like this: the flesh is like a dragon and the tendons are like iron. The skin is like glass and the bones are like jade. The blood is like molten lava and burns red gold. The most complete and wonderful treasure body. It refers to the legendary 5 realms of treasure body. The flesh is like a dragon and the tendons are like iron. The skin is like glass. The bones are like jade. And the blood is like molten lava and burns red gold. These 5 realms are the supreme human bodies in the imagination of ancient warriors. Xue Jing was fascinated by the realms described by ancient warriors, and couldn't help asking, what are the specific manifestations of these 5 realms? Chen Fuguang was very satisfied with Xue Jing's reaction, which greatly satisfied his desire to share. He smiled proudly and said, the so-called dragon elephant flesh means that the muscles are like dragons and elephants. The waterborne creatures have the greatest dragon power, and the landborne creatures have the strongest elephant power. These two are the strongest creatures in the legend, so it is not difficult to understand that the dragon elephant flesh is inhabited by dragons and elephants. In ancient times, there was a proverb praising, "Why do you want to shake the divine land?" It just happened to cultivate dragon elephant flesh. Chen Fuguang began to shake his head as he spoke, getting excited. Secondly, iron tree entangled tendons means that one's own tendons are like the roots of an iron tree. Trees are strong and tough, and iron trees are even stronger and tougher. Muscles and tendons have been inseparable since ancient times. Meat is the rest of tendons, and tendons are the substance of meat. Only by having tendons like the roots of an iron tree, and binding a body of dragon elephant flesh can one maximize its potential. There is a proverb praising, the boundless power of the gods can easily move mountains, and the roots of the iron tree can wrap around the tendons of the iron tree. Chen Fuguang knew them all by heart, and when he talked about the proverbs, he almost sang them like a professional storyteller. Third, skin cracked like glass does not mean that the skin looks like glass, but that the nature of the skin is flawless and leak-free like glass. Once it is cultivated, there will be no more weaknesses in the whole body. It can lock the blood and spirit of the whole body, reduce consumption to the extreme, and isolate the external pressure, like diamond glass, which is difficult to be damaged by magic weapons. There is a folk saying that praises perfect things in the world are rare since ancient times, and flawless and leak-free glass skin. Fourth, jade bones do not change means that one's own bones are refined into immortal jade bones. Such bones have unparalleled blood-forming function, and blood, ki and essence are endless. Any consumption of the human body is no longer a problem for them. Moreover, they are extremely hard and sharp. Nothing can hurt them, and nothing can hurt them. Using this bone to perform martial arts killing moves has a killing power far superior to ordinary bones. There is a folk saying that praises thousands of years of erosion of the world's wind cannot blow away a pair of incorruptible bones. Xue Jing complained, why doesn't it rhyme when it comes to bones? Chen Fuguang sighed and waved his hand, saying, what's the point of rhyming? Just being handsome is enough. Don't interrupt me, let me finish. Chen Fuguang regrouped his emotions, and a look of desolation appeared in his eyes. The fifth, blood dripping and melting gold. This is recognized by ancient warriors as the most difficult of the 5 realms of the treasure body to achieve. It means that, when you activate your own body, your blood will boil, and the temperature will be like volcanic magma. If you seep out a drop, it can melt the pure gold. Blood is the source of human power. Just imagine what kind of power this kind of blood that melts gold and iron can make the body burst out. There is a proverb that praises, real gold is not afraid of the refining of the mysterious fire, but it is afraid of the melting blood of warriors. Xue Jing was surprised and said, it feels like this is no longer a realm description, but a myth. As soon as he said this, Chen Fuguang's face suddenly darkened. The originally enthusiastic atmosphere came to an abrupt end. Yes, it's just a myth. No one can do it at all. Chen Fuguang sighed. At the beginning, Master Li Qi also described to him the supreme pursuit of the body by martial artists in such high spirits, but after finishing speaking, he sighed with boredom. let alone how such a realm can be achieved. Even if it is achieved, what can it do? The times have long changed. Genius can be artificially created. A few injections of banned drugs plus corresponding scientific training methods can quickly become a strong person, not to mention the existence of xenoplants. 10 years of hard work in martial arts is not as good as an operation. Even if someone really cultivates the 5 realms of the treasure body, it is still unknown whether he can beat the crystallization of the new era of technology. The road of the old martial arts has long come to an end. Chen Fuguang's face was full of melancholy and he stopped talking. Xue Jing also saw something and did not persuade him, but remained silent. He is different from Chen Fuguang. He has the biggest anomaly in the world. What others can't do is not impossible for him. The 5 realms of the treasure body. Maybe he can try to see if he can become a martial arts legend. Okay, junior brother, you practice first. I have work to do, so I'll leave first. Chen Fuguang patted Xue Jing on the shoulder and smiled. Xue Jing nodded. Goodbye, senior brother Chen. 2 days later, in the training room of Kanglang Dojo, Xue Jing stopped practicing the Zelum technique, stood on the solid wood floor, and slowly calmed his breath. There was an exaggerated pool of sweat under his feet, which even made people question how the human body could have so much water. You performed a Zelum technique standing practice. Fitness experience plus 208. You performed a Zelum technique standing practice, and the power experience plus 201. Fitness increased to LV5, 59 over 2000. Power increased to LV3, 198 over 800. Xue Jing's whole body crackled with a crisp sound, and his overall physical quality suddenly improved a lot, and he was comprehensively strengthened. He shook his hand, and the strength was pumped up with his breathing. A patch of skin on his arm suddenly bulged, as if a mouse was running around under the skin. He moved his fingers, and the mouse jumped up to his index finger. Xue Jing used his thumb and index finger to snap his fingers, and snap. Just a snap of the fingers, and there was a powerful explosion. Good. The strength penetrates the fingertips, and the snap of the fingers kills people. I didn't expect that. In addition to your excellent physical talent, you are also so talented in using strength. Li Qi, who was sitting in a wheelchair next to him, clapped his hands and laughed. Looking at this disciple in front of him who couldn't be more satisfied, the Mediterranean feeling on Li Qi's head brightened a little. As the saying goes, a sound is worth 1,000 gold. Being able to mobilize strength to the finest details, to penetrate the force into the fingertips, and to kill people with a flick of the finger. This was already a master in the old times, and you can be respected as master when you go out. A look of satisfaction appeared on Xue Jing's face. He smiled and said, "It's all because of the good teaching of the master." Li Qi nodded and said, "You are making progress too fast, far beyond my expectations. You can try to take the next step in advance." Xue Jing asked in confusion, "The next step? Is it the shaking armor skill?" Li Qi shook his head. "No, it's the visualization method. The purpose of the sleeping dragon technique is to nourish the dragon energy." "Where does this dragon energy come from?" "It comes from the heart. You have to raise a dragon in your own heart." Please read on, and give me your monthly vote. Chapter 40, Law of Divine Relics, Visualization LV1. Try it first. Empty your mind, and don't think about anything. Let your body's instinct run the hibernation dragon technique. Li Qi said. Xue Jing took a deep breath, closed his eyes, stood in the hibernation dragon technique, and tried not to think. After practicing for a few days, he had already mastered the operation of the hibernation dragon technique. Even if he didn't deliberately control it at this moment, as soon as he stood in the stance, his body began to run instinctively, gradually stimulating countless nodes and practicing the hibernation dragon technique. However, it only lasted less than 3 minutes. His mind began to be restless and involuntarily took over his body again and actively ran the hibernation dragon technique. Xue Jing opened his eyes and shook his head. "Master, I can't maintain this state for long." Li Qi said with satisfaction. "You don't have to maintain it for long. It's enough to do it. A genius is a genius. He can understand it at a glance. Compared with you, Chen Fuguang is a fool. When I taught him, I was almost pissed to death." Xue Jing didn't know what to say, so he just pretended not to hear. "I'll go prepare some things. You wait here and don't move." Li Qi urged. Xue Jing nodded. After Li Qi turned his wheelchair and left, Xue Jing took out his mobile phone and found an unread message on WeChat. He opened it and saw that it was from Wu Yaoqing. Xue Jing was excited for a moment, but found that it was not a job, but just a few files sent by the other party. Wu Yaoqing, these are the materials related to the divine relics. Try to learn more about them. You will use them in the future. Xue Jing, Panda head out. JPG. Xue Jing, good sister, when will there be work? On the interface, Wu Yaoqing sent a cat patting the head to comfort people. Wu Yaoqing, don't worry, our company does not have performance appraisal. Even if we don't receive any divine relics for a whole month, we will still pay the salary. Xue Jing, hey, look at what sister said. It doesn't matter whether there is a salary or not. The main thing is that I like to receive divine relics. Wu Yaoqing, smirking. JPG, so you mean it's okay not to send it? After chatting with the rich boss for a while, Xue Jing saw that Li Qi hadn't come back yet, so he opened the information about the divine relics sent by Wu Yaoqing. 5 laws of divine relics. First, divine relics are unique. All divine relics are one of a kind and cannot be replicated. Second, divine relics cannot be destroyed. Even if any divine relic is completely shattered on a physical level, it will reappear in another place in a random form. Third, divine relics must have side effects, without exception. The size of the side effects has nothing to do with the power of the divine relic, and there is no pattern to speak of. Fourth, divine relics are transferable. Any divine relic has the ability to transfer randomly with unknown triggering conditions. There is no pattern, and it is unpredictable. Fifth, divine relics are just divine relics. Divine relics are not living creatures. Even if they have thoughts, feelings, language skills, and even human appearance, they are just divine relics, not real living creatures. Therefore, no divine relic has human rights. Repeat, no divine relic has human rights. Xue Jing carefully read the 5 laws of divine relics in silence. His finger paused on the 5th one. Divine relics are just divine relics. For a while, as if thinking about something. I always feel like something bad happened, so this strange law was added. He shook his head, closed it, and then opened another document. Divine Relics Illustrated Book version. After clicking it, there was a long list of selectable serial numbers. God 001, God 002 Original, God 003 God, God 004 Emerald, God 005 Mirror, God 015 Reversal, God 016 Ashes, God 017 Father, God 018 Death Favored, God 057 Gold, God 066 Future. Xue Jing first looked at the first 100 sequences and found that they were either all or partially covered by. Clicking in also prompted insufficient permission, and he couldn't view it at all. He kept scrolling down, and from serial number 300 onwards, he could see the full name of the divine relic from time to time, but he still didn't have permission to view the information when he clicked in. It wasn't until the divine relic with serial number 1000 onwards that he could see a brief introduction. When he clicked in, Xue Jing picked one at random. God 1057 Quick Acting Heart Wrenching Pill. It will disguise itself as an ordinary heart saving pill and often randomly transfer to the medicine bottle of ordinary heart saving pills. After taking it, it will cause severe heart wrenching pain. The consumer will never die or fall into a coma for any reason within 2 hours and will continue to be conscious and in pain for 2 hours. Xue Jing, what kind of devilish divine relic is this? But it is also a life-saving artifact, worthy of being a divine relic. It is completely unreasonable, and you will definitely not die within 2 hours. Just as he was staring at it, the door of the training room was opened, and Li Qi drove in a wheelchair. He held a porcelain medicine bottle in his hand, opened the stopper, poured out a black pill, and handed it to Xue Jing. Take it, Li Qi said. Xue Jing did not doubt it, took it and threw it into his mouth, swallowing it directly. The taste was very strange, a very strong smell of Chinese medicine, mixed with a trace of undetectable strange fragrance. Xue Jing asked, Master, what is this? Li Qi said slowly, it is a secret medicine made with the body fluid of the dragon species in the border area as the main medicine, and it has a certain degree of hallucination effect. Can I ask what body fluid it is? Some things are better not known, Li Qi said meaningfully. Xue Jing. Xue Jing, look at me, Li Qi suddenly said. Xue Jing subconsciously looked at Li Qi. Boom boom boom. Xue Jing felt as if his brain was suddenly hit hard. Various sounds came from his ears, and his eyes were white. When his vision recovered, he looked up again. There was no trace of Li Qi in front of him. In the entire training room, there was only an old dragon lying dormant on the ground, lifelike. The old dragon had 4 legs and 5 claws, a unicorn horn on its head, and its body was covered with dense golden scales, but it was covered with scars everywhere, and its eyes were tired, almost half dead. But just a faint glance from the dark golden vertical pupils, Xue Jing froze in place, unable to move, and even breathing seemed to be a luxury. When he came to his senses, he was about to rub his eyes, but he was stunned. After raising his hand, is this a dragon claw? His arms were covered with heavy scales at some point, and sharp claws grew on his fingers. Xue Jing seemed to have realized something, and immediately stood in the posture of the hibernating dragon technique, and the whole dragon was dormant on the ground. He left the operation of the hibernating dragon technique to his own instincts, and immersed himself in the feeling of becoming a dragon. I don't know how long it has been. Xue Jing slowly opened his eyes. At a certain moment, his eyes suddenly lit up, and his pupils turned into dark golden vertical pupils, but they changed back in just a moment, as if it were an illusion. Conditions have been met. Activate the skill. Visualization. Visualization LV1. 0/300. Please read on. Chapter 41. The Key of Movement and Stillness. Practical Training with Senior Sister Meng. Looking at the visualization on the panel, Xue Jing felt the changes that had taken place in himself. He felt that his brain was like a pearl that had been covered in dust for a long time. Once the dust was gone, the light would shine through the mountains and rivers. This was a very wonderful feeling. What he thought in his consciousness was like a flash of light with almost no hindrance. Is this an increase in wisdom? No, it should be a concentration of mind that can eliminate distracting thoughts other than what he wants to think about. As soon as doubts emerged in his mind, Xue Jing immediately analyzed the reason with certainty. Visualization, its function should be to strengthen the ability to control thinking, strengthen the ability to control emotions, and strengthen the imagination. Xue Jing tried to visualize a dragon in his mind. In just a moment, a real dragon with huge wings on its back, 4 legs and 5 claws, was outlined by him. All the details were lifelike. Even a mane and a golden scale had a very vivid sense of reality. Then, with a change of mind, he entered the dragon body and transformed into a real dragon. He stretched his dragon body, his muscles rolled like waves, and his golden scales shone with brilliance. In the training room, Li Qi looked at Xue Jing in surprise, who was standing quietly in the center, exuding an inexplicable aura. It's just the first time to visualize, and you have cultivated the dragon spirit directly? Xue Jing exited the visualization, and the dragon spirit dissipated. He looked at Li Qi and asked in confusion, Master, what exactly does dragon spirit refer to? It seemed that due to the influence of the previous transformation into a real dragon in his consciousness, his voice sounded much lower than usual, with an inexplicable heavy majesty. Li Qi smiled and said gently, the so-called dragon energy is actually a kind of emotion. Humans are very magical creatures, and are easily affected by emotions. For example, an angry person will definitely punch harder than usual. You should have heard of things like seeing her grandson being crushed by a car. An old lady lifted the car in desperation, right? Murderous aura, fighting spirit, self-confidence, anger, greed, willpower. These invisible, intangible, abstract spiritual forces, after a certain degree of arrangement and combination, can be gathered into a kind of emotion that can positively affect the body. Use the stance of the hibernating dragon technique to imitate a dragon, and use the visualization method to visualize a dragon. If you continue like this for a long time, you will be able to cultivate a dragon energy that regards yourself as a dragon. When you punch, you will naturally carry the momentum of dragon energy and exert the power of a real dragon. Xue Jing suddenly realized. Li Qi continued to explain, we martial artists call the aroused emotions dynamic key and the ability to control emotions calm key. If you don't have dynamic ki, when you fight, you don't have the temper in your heart, how can you punch hard? If you don't have calm ki, you will be manipulated by your emotions. Every qualified martial artist needs to learn to cultivate calm ki, accumulate dynamic ki, use stillness to control movement, and combine stillness and movement to be successful. Xue Jing nodded and said seriously, disciple has learned. Li Qi said with satisfaction, generally speaking, disciples who have just cultivated dragon ki will be a little wild in their words and deeds, because they regard themselves as dragons. This is a manifestation of insufficient calm ki. But you are as usual, not affected by dragon ki at all. Obviously, you are also quite good in the talent of calm ki. Xue Jing heard this, and just glanced at the visualization on the panel. Another magical skill. Enhanced imagination and thinking control ability. These are the key to mobilizing dynamic ki. The ability to control emotions has been strengthened, which means that the key of tranquility will also be improved simultaneously. After a bunch of skills related to physical talents, he finally got a skill related to spiritual consciousness talent. Let's practice the hibernating dragon technique to this extent today. Your progress is beyond my expectations. It's time for you to get in touch with the fighting method, Li Qi said, taking out his mobile phone from his pocket, pressing it for a while, and then putting it down again. Fighting method? How to practice? Xue Jing was excited. Li Qi laughed and said, martial arts training is nothing more than nourish, practice, fight and kill. The hibernating dragon technique nourishes the dragon's ki, the shaking armor technique trains the dragon's strength, and the killing moves are too early for you for now. As for the fighting method, it all depends on self-realization. Xue Jing asked in confusion, self-realization? The so-called fighting method is the method of fighting, which includes your personal habits, strategies, instincts in fighting. This is a complete fighting system that you have to build up step by step. The only way to practice the fighting method is to fight. Fight hard, fight continuously, and the fighting method will naturally take shape gradually, Li Qi said with a smile. As if to cooperate with Li Qi's words, he had just finished speaking when the door of the training room was pushed open. A short-haired woman wearing a black training suit, with a protruding front and a cold face, walked in. She was holding a hand-grabbed pancake in her hand, and kept chewing it. As she walked forward, the amazing size of the place stretched the training suit, that should have been loose tight, and it seemed that it would crack at any time, which made people feel thrilling. Xue Jing was stunned. Senior Sister Meng Qingjie, the fourth disciple of Kanglang Dojo. She is the daughter of the eldest brother Meng Bosheng. She is also the woman with the best figure Xue Jing has ever seen in the real world in these two lives. Meng Qingjie did not speak, but nodded coldly, came to Xue Jing, stretched out the other hand that was not holding the pancake, and touched his head. It seems to express closeness and love. Xue Jing was a little unsure, but did not resist. Qingjie's control of energy is the best among all the disciples. Even her father Bosheng can't compare with her. Li Qi said leisurely, let her be your opponent in practicing fighting. Xue Jing hesitated and looked at Meng Qingjie's World Cup. This is much bigger than Wu Yaoqing in the European Cup and Takia Marang in the Asian Cup. Wouldn't it be inconvenient? But he soon put aside his distracting thoughts, took a deep breath, and clasped his fists towards Meng Qingjie. Please teach me, senior sister. The girl didn't say much, so he couldn't be hypocritical. Meng Qingjie didn't say anything, still nodded with a cold expression, and then quickly ate the pancake in his hand. His cheeks were stuffed like a hamster, chewing non-stop, and soon swallowed it. Then he put one hand behind his back, and made a pleased gesture with the other hand, with the little pancake crumbs on the corner of his mouth. His tall figure was as straight as a pine tree, and he had a kind of grandmaster's demeanor, but his figure was too good, round and smooth, and it felt a bit sensational anyway. Fortunately, after Xue Jing activated visualization, his ability to control his thoughts was greatly enhanced. He quickly shook his head to get rid of all distracting thoughts and his eyes became serious. Be careful, senior sister. As soon as the words fell, Xue Jing stepped on the floor, and the whole person shot towards Meng Qingjie like an arrow from a bow. Bang! Xue Jing only felt a flash in front of his eyes, and his chest was hit by a soft force. He flew back involuntarily, and fell on the solid wood floor. The intention is too obvious. Li Qi next to him said. Don't worry about King Jiao's female identity. You can't care so much in actual combat. You have to do everything you can to win, whether it's mean or vicious. The so-called martial arts, standing is winning, lying down is losing. It doesn't matter how. Use your brain. Try anyway. Just think about winning. Don't have any worries. Xue Jing nodded, stood up with a carp jump, prepared himself again, and continued to rush towards Menking Jiao. This time he no longer avoided the key sensitive parts, but hid wherever he felt there was a flaw. But he only fought with Menking Jiao for 2 moves, and flew out again. He didn't say much, just stood up and continued. In this way, he kept challenging and was defeated. Every time he flew out, Li Qi next to him would point out his shortcomings. Xue Jing absorbed fighting knowledge like a sponge, and gradually got better. From being knocked away as soon as he made contact, to being able to hold out for 2 moves, to being able to hold out for 10 moves, it took Xue Jing an hour. It took Xue Jing 3 hours to be able to hold out for 20 moves. Until the sky gradually darkened and the crescent moon hung high, Xue Jing could no longer hold out. He only ran 2 steps, then his legs and feet softened, and the whole person fell to the ground. Please read. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Playing the Wrong Place. You conducted a combat training. Fitness experience plus 188. You conducted a combat training and felt pleasure from being beaten. Health experience plus 78. You conducted a combat training. Aiming experience plus 109. You conducted a combat training. Fighting experience plus 267. You conducted a combat training. Strength experience plus 219. Aiming is upgraded to LV3, 8/800. Xue Jing was lying on the ground. Even breathing was extremely difficult. No muscle in his body could squeeze out even a little bit of strength. Tired. From birth to now, even in his previous life, he had never felt so tired. But at the same time as being tired, he also felt a strange sense of satisfaction. This was the brain secreting endorphins to reward himself for overworking. Li Qi looked at Xue Jing lying on the ground motionless with satisfaction. With his eyesight, he could naturally see that this was not escapist fatigue, but a state that would only occur after really using all his strength and reaching the limit. Talent, character, will. The qualities required of martial artist. The disciple in front of him had all of them, and each one of them exceeded his expectations. Menking Jiao looked at Xue Jing lying on the ground, and after confirming that he would not stand up again, he walked to him lightly, squatted down, and touched the back of Xue Jing's head, which was already soaked with sweat. It seemed to be comforting and praising. Li Qi smiled at her. Let's stop here today, King Jiao. You go eat first. Menking Jiao nodded, touched Xue Jing's head again, stood up, and left the training room. How do you feel? Li Qi smiled. Xue Jing barely squeezed a little strength into his throat, and said in a muffled voice, I feel very good. Li Qi laughed. At 5 o'clock the next morning, Xue Jing opened his eyes on time, exactly, without a second's delay. Go to bed early, and get up early. Health experience plus 38. Health is upgraded to LV3, 3/800. Instantly, Xue Jing felt his energy lifted, as if a warm current was flowing through his body, and his whole body was filled with energy that had nowhere to vent. Which was not like the state of just waking up. After careful feeling, he was obviously exhausted to the point of being close to coma last night, but at this moment he could not feel it at all, as if the actual combat training yesterday had never happened. He has been fully revived. What is health preservation? Xue Jing smiled, and happily reached out to touch the cat. He reached out and hit nothing, lifted the quilt, and saw that the cat was not on the bed. Recently, he has been touching the cat as soon as he wakes up. Now he doesn't touch it, and he feels very uncomfortable. Xue Jing got up and walked out of the room and came to the living room. As soon as he turned on the light, he found that the cat was walking in from the balcony. Teacher 1, did you go out just now? Xue Jing asked in confusion. The cat shook its body, lifted its butt, stretched, yawned, and said sleepily, "I went out to deal with some things. I'm so sleepy, I'm going to sleep." Without waiting for Xue Jing to answer, it flew into the room in a few steps, got into Xue Jing's bed, rubbed the remaining warmth of the bed, and fell asleep. Xue Jing was confused, but he promised Ning Fengwen not to ask about her affairs, so he didn't ask too much. After washing up in the bathroom, Xue Jing changed into a sportswear and went out for a run. An hour later, the alarm on his watch vibrated, and Xue Jing stopped with a slight breath. "You have completed a long distance run. Running experience plus 258. Running is upgraded to LV5. 57 over 2000. This skill, one of the earliest he activated, was finally upgraded to LV5. Xue Jing squatted quickly, swung his arms back, raised his heels, and jumped suddenly, and the whole person rushed forward a long distance. He looked back and roughly estimated that he should have jumped a distance of nearly 4.5 meters. The world record for standing long jump on Earth in the previous life. I remember it seemed to be more than 3 meters. Xue Jing thought uncertainly. Now his leg explosive power has completely exceeded the limit of ordinary people. This is without using any strength. Shaking his head, Xue Jing walked back home, took a shower, and made breakfast. After he finished eating, he left a portion for the cat, and then went out to the Kanglang dojo. After arriving by bus, he entered the office building, took the elevator to the 17th floor, and went straight to the practice room without any stop. What he didn't expect was that as soon as he opened the door, there was already someone sitting in the practice room. The short-haired beauty sat upright on the solid wood floor, holding a 3-layer Big Mac beef burger in her hand, chewing silently. There were also a few rolled up hamburger wrappers scattered on the floor, and it was obvious that quite a few had been eaten. Seeing Xue Jing come in, Meng Qingjie nodded to him, and then began to eat faster, chewing non-stop. Her thin lips as red as vermilion were covered with grease, and the tip of her upturned nose was stained with some yellow cheese sauce. "Senior Sister Meng, are you here to help me train?" Xue Jing sat cross-legged in front of her and smiled. Meng Qingjie ate the hamburger, nodded, and made a vague sound. Seeing that she seemed to like eating very much, Xue Jing thought for a while and said, "Senior Sister Meng, next time I will cook something for you. I'm quite good at cooking." According to Chen Fuguang, Meng Qingjie should be very busy, but she still took time out to accompany him to train fighting, so he couldn't help but express his gratitude. Xue Jing opened the panel and took a look at the cooking skills. Cooking skills LV3, 501 over 800. Although he did not deliberately practice this skill, daily cooking still allowed him to steadily increase his cooking experience by 1 or 200 every day. Now he can't say that he is on par with any chef, but at least in the field of home cooking, he can cook any dish and the taste is top notch. Hearing this, Meng Qingjie raised her eyebrows slightly, her eyes lit up slightly, and nodded. She put the last bite of the hamburger into her mouth, rolled up the wrapping paper, threw it on the ground, and reached out to touch Xue Jing's head. This seemed to be her way of expressing closeness. After touching the head, the short-haired beauty stood up, stepped back a few steps, put one hand behind her back, and made a pleased gesture with the other hand. "Senior sister just finished eating. Don't you want to take a break?" Xue Jing asked with concern. Meng Qingjie shook her head and rubbed her stomach, as if to say it was okay. Since she was fine, Xue Jing had no problem, so he stood up, said, "Senior sister, be careful," and rushed towards Meng Qingjie. In the training room, a new round of fighting practice began. 3 days later, in the training room, Xue Jing and Meng Qingjie were fighting back and forth, punching and kicking each other, as if they were in a fierce fight. Unlike before, after 3 days of full-scale fighting training, Xue Jing has a certain degree of practical experience. With the blessing of a set of skills, his fighting style has already been in good shape. The sharp hissing sound of the air rolled up between the whistling fists and feet, and continued to fall towards Meng Qingjie like raindrops. The latter's expression was as indifferent and cold as ever, blocking Xue Jing's attacks one by one, and each parry was just right, not more or less. People who know the business can see at a glance that this is feeding the opponent with absolute force advantage, rather than really fighting to a standstill. Xue Jing punched Meng Qingjie's chest, which was exposed, but she quickly returned to defense, pinched her wrist, and could not move forward. The fist was still an inch away from the chest. Xue Jing's eyes flashed, and he finally found the real flaw. The breathing method was in operation, and the strength was mobilized and gathered on the fingertips of the punch. The thumb and index finger of the fist were pinched together only an inch away from the chest, and then a finger snapped. Pa! There was an explosion out of thin air, and the force penetrated the fingertips, and the finger snapped to kill. Xue Jing's face changed when he felt the soft touch. Please read the following pinch. Chapter 43 is important, must read. The part where the protagonist followed Chen Fuguan to the boxing gym was lost for 3 or 4 days in a row due to follow-up reading. The loss was very dramatic and the author had to delete this part. Readers who have read it don't need to go back and read it again. Just know that the plot of following Chen Fuguan to the boxing gym is gone. There is really no other way. The loss was too dramatic. If it is not changed, the book will be gone. The author can only do this. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience caused to the readers. However, in return, because the deletion of that plot left 2 chapters blank, there will be 2 more chapters today. It is the author's apology. I'm really sorry! Exclamation mark. I'm so sorry. Chapter 44 Why Sister Meng doesn't speak. Snap. Feeling the soft touch from his fingertips, Xue Jing realized that something was wrong and his face changed. He was so excited in the fight that he didn't think too much for a moment. He only saw the distance between his fingers and subconsciously felt that there was an opportunity, so he used a finger snap. It was really not intentional. Just when Xue Jing was stunned, Meng Qingjie slapped him on the chest and knocked him out. He still used soft force. Xue Jing stood up with a somersault and asked Meng Qingjie with concern, "Senior sister, are you okay?" Meng Qingjie shook her head. She glanced at Xue Jing quietly, her expression unchanged. If it weren't for the barely detectable blush on her face, it would be as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere was a little weird for a while, but fortunately Li Qi next to him spoke up to help. "Okay, let's stop today's training." Hearing this, Xue Jing also breathed a sigh of relief. After this happened, he felt somewhat emotional and lost all his fighting spirit, or rather, his spirit of movement was gone, so his punches were bound to be weak, and he couldn't fight at all. As experienced as Li Qi was, he saw this and ended today's training directly. "Qingjie, you go and rest," Li Qi said gently. Meng Qingjie nodded, thought for a moment, walked in front of Xue Jing, and touched his head, as if to say don't worry. Xue Jing was stunned, and he could see a trace of maternal tenderness from the cold and pretty face in front of him. After the short-haired beauty left, Xue Jing looked at her curvy back and thought, next time, I'll make a big meal for senior sister Meng. Do my best. Shaking his head, Xue Jing opened the panel and took a look. Fitness LV5, 827/2000. Health LV3, 468/800. Cooking LV3, 751/800. Running LV5, 699/2000. Charm LV4, 66/1200. Aiming LV3, 567/800. Fighting LV3, 520/800. Power LV4, 217/1200. Visualization LV1, 251/300. These 3 days of actual combat training were a great harvest for him. Especially fighting and power, both of which were directly upgraded by 1 level, and fitness, aiming, and healthcare all gained a lot of experience. Of course, these are just the data displayed on the panel. The actual combat experience he gained in these 3 days and the fighting system he gradually built up are not reflected on the panel. This is a huge improvement in combat power. Although I'm used to your growth rate, I'm still surprised every time. Li Qi pinched his chin and said. Xue Jing said modestly, it's all because of Master's good teaching. Li Qi waved his hand. We martial artists must learn to lie and can't always tell the truth. In actual combat, as long as you can deceive your opponent, you've won half the battle. The error of intelligence information is extremely fatal in a close battle. You must remember this. Xue Jing nodded and said, disciple has learned. After thinking for a while, Xue Jing asked, by the way, Master, why don't senior sister Meng and senior brother speak? He asked the question he had been holding since he entered the sect. He originally thought that the father and daughter were taciturn and cold, but after spending a few days together, he found that it was different from what he thought. When senior brother Meng Bosheng saw him, although he never spoke, he would nod at him every time, showing a smile that he didn't know if it was a smile, which should be a way of expressing goodwill to him. Not to mention senior sister Meng, who would take a few hours every day to teach him moves and practice fighting, and would pat his head, and even, she didn't get angry when he hit her front armor, and it was obvious that she really treated him as a beloved junior brother. Except for not talking and having no expression, he was basically not aloof. Li Qi was silent for a while and sighed. When King Jiao was still young, something happened. When Bosheng was young, he followed me in the circle of the inner ring city, and he was quite famous. He deserved the title of a young talent, and he also met many rich ladies. He and one of them, King Jiao's mother, fell in love with each other, got married soon after, and gave birth to King Jiao. At this point, Li Qi's old and turbid eyes revealed a trace of sadness and regret. At that time, I was confident of my extraordinary martial arts skills and my behavior was too reckless. I didn't know my place, and I challenged others to fights every day. In the end, I fell down. I ran into a ruthless man, who broke both my legs, and killed the real dragon in my heart with one punch, which broke my spirit. I have too many enemies. After learning that I became half a disabled person, countless people took advantage of my misfortune. At that time, Bosheng stayed by my side every day to protect me, and inevitably neglected my family. That day, only King Jiao and her mother stayed at home, and as a result, enemies came to the door. In order to protect King Jiao, her mother let King Jiao hide, and told her, don't make a sound before her mother comes back. Xue Jing listened silently, and had roughly guessed what was going on. When the old man and Bosheng realized something was wrong and rushed back, we only found King Jiao, who had been hungry for several days, in the basement of the house. Her mother had disappeared since then, and her life or death is unknown. Since that day, King Jiao has never spoken again. Li Qi looked out the window. Bosheng was originally a talkative and cheerful person, but later, in order to prevent King Jiao from thinking that she was an alien with a disability, he and her shut up and stopped talking. In order to avoid enemies and protect King Jiao, we left the inner ring city in disgrace, and then came to King Cheng, and opened this Kanglang dojo. Xue Jing was silent, not knowing what to say. But in his heart, it was inevitable that a trace of pity for Meng King Jiao emerged. You must not speak before your mother comes back. This reason that made her unable to speak from then on was too distressing. Because he was not the person involved, he could not express any opinion on the past described by Li Qi, and could only remain silent. When people get old, they are inevitably sentimental, and talk too much. Li Qi suddenly laughed. You don't need to care about these, they are all old things, and they are over. Li Qi comforted Xue Jing. Master, do you want revenge? Xue Jing thought for a while and asked. Li Qi shook his head. When will the revenge end? I just caused too many things, and made too many enemies, so that Bosheng's family encountered this kind of thing. As for the idea of revenge, there is definitely one. The only obsession left for me is to find the person who hurt King Jiao and King Jiao's mother, but, Li Qi shook his head, I have too many enemies, and I don't even know who to target. Xue Jing said without thinking, then I don't want to think about who it is specifically, just crush them all in the future. Li Qi was speechless. You kid is more arrogant than me at my peak. My enemies are all people from the inner ring city, not small fish and shrimp thinking Cheng. It's hard to deal with each one. How can I crush them all? Xue Jing blinked and said seriously, I think I can do it. Li Qi laughed. Then I'll just look forward to it. Please give me some monthly tickets. Can you give me some? Chapter 45. Glasses and hairspray hands are a perfect match. At noon, Xue Jing had lunch at the Kanglang dojo. After he started practicing martial arts, his appetite gradually increased. If he ate ordinary food, he would have to use a basin to calculate the amount of food. The disciples of the Kanglang dojo usually eat special medicinal meals for dinner, and they would also be paired with some nutritional pastes that Xue Jing had never seen before. After eating, the whole body will feel warm. At this time, practicing the Zelum technique will gain more experience than usual. You have practiced the Zelum technique standing practice Fitness experience plus 258. You have practiced the Zelong technique standing practice, and the experience of using strength plus 221. You have practiced the Zelong technique's visualization method, and the visualization experience. Plus 79. Visualization is upgraded to LV2, 30/500, after standing for an hour. To practice the Zelong technique, Xue Jing slowly calmed his breath, combed the boiling blood in his body, and the dragon energy all over his body gradually dissipated. It was as if a summer breeze blew through his mind, refreshing and refreshing, making his mind clearer and more focused. Closing his eyes, he visualized the entire training room in his mind, then walked forward a few steps, squatted down naturally, picked up the mineral water on the solid wood floor, unscrewed it, and gulped it down. Then he walked to the window, stretched out his hand without any worries, to open the window and welcome the fresh air outside. It didn't look like he had lost his vision at all. When people close their eyes, they lose their sense of distance, balance, and direction. But even if Xue Jing closed his eyes now, as long as he visualized the appearance of the training room in his consciousness, everything here would be clear to him, almost like a mental scan, no different from seeing with open eyes. Maybe if I continue like this, I can develop a mind's eye, Xue Jing thought. Without using his eyes to see, but relying on the imagination of his consciousness, he can predict all the actions of his opponent, and get rid of his dependence on the senses. This is his future expectation for the skill of visualization. While taking a break, the phone on the floor suddenly vibrated. When he opened it, it was a message from a rich and domineering boss. Wu Yaoqing, there is work, come quickly. Xue Jing was immediately refreshed. Damn, there is finally work. He immediately stood up, changed his clothes, almost ran out of the Kanglang dojo, and got on the bus. First he went home to get his library card, took the time to rub the face of the cat who was taking a nap, and then quickly went out, all the way to the Kingda campus, and came to the 7th floor of the library. After entering the door, Xue Jing first looked around, except for Wu Yaoqing wearing glasses sitting in the rest area. He did not see Wu Yaoqing. He looked around again and suddenly realized that something was wrong. Huh? Wu Yaoqing wearing glasses? Isn't that Wu Yaoqing? He turned around suddenly. The girl took off the frameless glasses on her face and looked at Xue Jing with a smile. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Xue Jing felt that Wu Yaoqing was much more beautiful at this time than when he saw her before. Your intensity of consciousness is very high. You can find me here so quickly. The girl blinked and said in surprise. Seeing Xue Jing staring at the glasses in her hand, Wu Yaoqing smiled and said, as you can see, this is a divine relic. Want to try it on? Xue Jing remained calm, stretched out his hand to take the glasses, and asked curiously, what is the function of this divine relic? Divine substance detected, absorbing divinity, got 1280 ordinary glasses. The girl explained. She sat up a little straighter, raised her well-developed European-sized conscience, and trembled slightly. For some reason, Xue Jing always felt that Wu Yaoqing was much more attractive now than before, and couldn't help but look at her. The effect is very simple. It can reduce a person's sense of existence, make them ordinary, and not attract other people's attention. Wu Yaoqing looked at Xue Jing's somewhat drifting eyes with a playful look. However, the function of the glasses is to suppress the sense of existence, not to eliminate it. Once the glasses are taken off, the suppressed sense of existence will burst out at once, which is particularly easy to attract people's attention. The longer you wear them, the stronger the sense of existence will be. Xue Jing suddenly realized. It turned out that he was not suddenly lecherous, but because of the effect of the glasses, Wu Yaoqing was more attractive than usual. That's fine. He focused his eyes on the attractive part of the girl, and looked at her openly. This is not what he wanted to see. It's the fault of the divine relic. Boss, didn't you say there was a job? Xue Jing said. Wu Yaoqing took out a stack of documents from the bag next to her, and handed it to Xue Jing. This mission is very special. It's a C-level containment mission, which shouldn't have been given to you. But, the girl raised her chin, and motioned him to look at the documents. Xue Jing put on the got 1280 in his hand, and the whole person instantly degenerated from a congenital soft rice sane body to a stone on the roadside, which made Wu Yaoqing slightly stunned. He flipped open the file. God's Relics Eyewitness Report. On October 18th at 2:32 p.m., a knife attack occurred on Lianming Street in the southern part of Yuqing City. According to the investigation, the attacker was a young woman with blonde hair and tattoos wearing a crown. At 1:11 a.m. on October 19th, the woman appeared again. In the file, there was first a lot of eyewitness reports, and there were also a few color photos attached to the side. The photos showed a young woman in her 20s wearing a black dress. Her hair was dyed blonde, and there was an exaggerated large spider tattooed on her neck. She wore an exquisite crown on her head, with a black flower in the center of the crown. It has been confirmed that the crown worn by the woman is God 1105 Crown of the Evil Woman, which is a dangerous God's relic. Please collect it as soon as possible. After reading the last paragraph, Xue Jing turned the page of the file and saw the information of Crown of the Evil Woman. God 1105 Crown of the Evil Woman will actively approach women with evil thoughts. After being worn, it will continuously enhance the evil thoughts in the wearer's heart. At the same time, it will also enhance the wearer's physical abilities until the wearer becomes an unparalleled evil woman. Xue Jing put the document on the table. Have you finished reading it? Wu Yaoqing asked. Xue Jing nodded. I have finished reading it. So why did you let me perform this C-level containment mission? Wu Yaoqing smiled and looked him up and down. Crown of the Evil Woman can continuously enhance the evil thoughts of the wearer. Women also have credibility. Seeing a good-looking man and wanting to possess him is also a kind of evil thought. Xue Jing. He understood why he was asked to do this containment mission. He pushed the rimless glasses on the bridge of his nose. So this pair of glasses is also prepared for this? Wu Yaoqing nodded and smiled. You have a good foundation. Once you wear God 1280 for a long time, when you take it off, the sense of existence that bursts out in that moment is enough to break through the psychological defense of evil woman, which is not strong to begin with, and ignite her desire. Then you can easily take off Crown of Evil Woman. This containment mission is for you. Xue Jing was speechless. This is asking him to sell his body, but it is indeed suitable for him. Maybe he can come here once. After taking off the glasses, he put the hairspray on his head. From now on, I will stand in the sky. Please give me a monthly ticket. Can you put your big monthly tickets into my little book? Chapter 46 Activation. The Power of Twins. Boss, where did you get these glasses? Xue Jing pushed the God 1280 on his nose and glanced at the panel. Possessing divinity. 201. I borrowed them from other shelter companies. Wu Yaoqing crossed her arms and said. Xue Jing was stunned. Are there other shelter companies? Wu Yaoqing looked at him strangely. Did I say that? Xue Jing shook his head. That's not what I meant. I think our company feels quite mysterious and high-end. I thought there was only one such company in the country. You misunderstood. The Divine Relic Shelter Company is a little special, but not so high-end. If I have to describe it, it's actually no different from the street cleaners who sweep the streets. Wu Yaoqing shook her smooth high ponytail, and her slightly purple pupils were as gorgeous as amethyst. You also know that all the divine relics have the ability to move randomly. This means that, no matter how good the measures are, they cannot be completely contained. The only way is to continue the containment work without interruption, in an infinite cycle. There are thousands of known divine relics in this world. If you think about it carefully, you will know that thousands of divine relics may appear in various places at any time. The workload is very exaggerated. A containment company alone cannot take care of it. Xue Jing thought for a while and asked, anyway, they will be moved after being contained, so can't we just let them go and ignore them? Wu Yaoqing rejected it and said, no, all divine relics have unreasonable abilities and are too dangerous. Once this is done, the whole world will soon be in chaos. Even if the containment work is just a bamboo basket to draw water behavior, it must be carried out continuously and cannot be stopped. Is that so? Xue Jing thought for a while and asked again, are we in a cooperative relationship with other containment companies? Wu Yaoqing said, not necessarily, it depends on the situation. The containment work is essentially outsourced to us by the government. The government will allocate funds every year, based on the performance of each containment company. Some companies will adopt vicious competition to make this money. If you meet people from other companies, while you are doing the containment work, be careful. Xue Jing nodded to show that he understood. Well, and if something goes wrong, if you encounter any danger that you cannot handle, retreat immediately. Safety first. Wu Yaoqing reminded. Understood. Xue Jing responded, and then suddenly said, by the way, good sister, I want to test the effect. Wu Yaoqing was slightly stunned. What effect? As soon as the voice fell, she saw Xue Jing took off his ordinary glasses. It was like a piece of stubborn stone that could be seen everywhere, suddenly shaking off the dust and blooming with dazzling and fierce light. At this moment, Xue Jing entered the realm of the innate soft rice-stained body again. Wu Yaoqing didn't say anything, but just silently looked away, not looking at him, with a barely detectable blush on her cheeks. Xue Jing looked at the prompt on the panel. Someone has developed a good impression of you. Charm experience plus 19, and smiled silently. It seems to be very effective. Holding a stack of information about the wearers of Glory of the Evil Girl, Xue Jing left the library and planned to go home to do some preparations. He wore frameless glasses, got on the bus, and looked at the information in his hand. The name is Lao Huaying. The activity location is basically in the southern city. Bars, discos, gigolo clubs, KTVs, a standard range of activities for a gangster. Xue Jing silently complained. The information shows that Lao Huaying has already used the physical ability of the Crown of the Evil Girl to carve out a territory and established a small gang called the Rose Gang. Every day, she bullies the locals and has a good time fucking beautiful boys. The evil thoughts released by the Crown of the Evil Girl are completely undisguised, which has caused dissatisfaction among the surrounding gangs. But because the personal force she showed was too strong, no one could do anything to her for the time being. Xue Jing took another look at the information of God 1105. Crown of the Evil Woman. In theory, the stronger the evil thoughts of the wearer, the greater the bonus to physical ability. The upper limit is not clear at present. The highest record is an international female wanted criminal who has a 4.2 danger level rating under the bonus of the Crown of the Evil Woman. But as long as it is taken off, the wearer's physical ability will gradually return to its original state. Is that so? Xue Jing looked at the information and silently thought about countermeasures. Unknowingly, the bus stopped, and Xue Jing got off and walked back home. As soon as he entered the door, Xue Jing casually called out, "Teacher 1." There was no response. He looked everywhere in the house, but couldn't find Mao Mao. Going out again? Xue Jing asked in confusion. Why does Mao Mao always go out recently, and he doesn't know what he is doing? He didn't pay much attention, entered the gym, and opened the panel. Divinity absorption completed. Possessing divinity. 311 how? Xue Jing raised his eyebrows. Compared to the nearly 500 divinity points provided by God 1391 cattail ring and God 1567 sweet water kettle, this ordinary pair of glasses only provides a little over 300. It seems that the difference in divinity provided by each divine relic is quite large. With a sigh, Xue Jing swiped the panel to the divinity skill page and clicked Twin LV1, divinity required for upgrade. 311 hundredths, currently upgradable. Xue Jing clicked to upgrade. Twin LV2, divinity required for upgrade. 211 over 300, passive, possessed who lives, can freely choose the resurrection time within 7 days after death. Cooldown time. 80 days active. Each LV1 can specify an ability related to one's own body, which will produce double effect when used. Currently activated. Action speed. Currently available options: physical strength, physical defense, reaction speed, calculation ability, concentration, memory. The passive cooldown time has been reduced by 10 days. If the upgrade of LV1 is 10 days, then when it reaches LV10, won't it be infinite resurrection? Xue Jing looked at the passive effect update and was a little surprised. This LV1 upgrade is worth it. Then he looked at the active effect. His eyes were thoughtful. Well, let's go with physical strength. Xue Jing made a decision. This choice should be the one that has the highest combat power bonus for him at the moment. Whether it is close combat or throwing stones to test the water, it will get a huge bonus. He is about to deal with the wearer of the Crown of the Evil Woman who has strong physical abilities, so choosing physical strength should be the right choice. Xue Jing pressed physical strength on the panel. Currently activated. Physical strength, speed of movement. After activation, Xue Jing resisted the urge to test it on the spot and walked out of the house. On the small garden track, where he often ran, Xue Jing picked up a thumb-sized pebble from the ground. Then he looked around and set his sights on a camphor tree 20 meters away. He raised his arm holding the pebble, and the breathing method was running. The strength poured in, and Xue Jing's eyes were fixed. Twin power activate. Swish. The pebble passed through the air like a cannonball, and the air made a whine in the friction, and flew straight towards the camphor tree. Bang. There was a bang, which scared the passers-by around. A young man happened to be next to him, and fell to the ground in shock. Someone fired a gun. He stood up, and said in shock. The people around were also curious, and walked forward to see what happened. Wow, are you doing acrobatics? Isn't this a meteorite? No, it looks like a pebble. How did you do that? Shoot it with a sniper rifle? On a camphor tree with a diameter of more than 50 centimeters, a circle of skin exploded radially, revealing a white tree core. In the center was a pebble that had split into several pieces, deeply embedded in the wood. I'm so itchy, I really want a big monthly ticket. Chapter 47. I have the same X for both of them. Nancheng District, Lianming Street. Lao Huaying, wearing a black dress and holding a metal baseball bat in one hand, walked out of a restaurant and picked her teeth with a toothpick in the other hand. Her hair was dyed a bright golden color, which looked dull and messy, a bit like a chicken coop. She wore an exquisite crown with black flowers carved on her head, but it seemed that, because her eyes were too gloomy, she looked not like a princess at all, but an evil witch who took away the princess's crown. Where should we go next? She whispered softly, her eyes scanning the surroundings, and anyone who met her eyes would immediately shudder and quickly avoid her. As if she enjoyed the feeling of being frightened, Lao Huaying narrowed her eyes slightly and raised the corners of her mouth. It felt so good to do whatever she wanted. This street is all hers. Do whatever you want. Go to the restaurant to eat and ask the boss for money after eating, and if he doesn't give it, she will blow his head. Go to the KTV to sing and ask the boss for money after singing, and if he doesn't give it, she will blow his head. Go to the club to find men, ask for money after you have sex, and do it again if they don't give you money. This world is so fucking beautiful. But it's not enough. She wants more, to dominate more streets, to get more money, to blow more heads, to have sex with more men. Hey, Sister Lao, take care. The middle-aged and slightly bald restaurant owner stood at the door of the store, nodding and bowing to Lao Huaying. When she saw him, Lao Huaying seemed to remember something, stretched out a hand, and pressed it on the boss's head. Grabbing his head, licking her lips, she said, "Where are your two sons? Why didn't I see them today?" The boss's mouth twitched, and he understood what she meant. They are all resting today." Lao Huaying began to exert force on the hand holding his head, like an iron clamp, making the boss feel that his skull was gradually cracking, and he couldn't help but scream in pain. "Stop, stop, stop, stop. I understand, Sister Lao, I understand. Feeling the iron clamp on his head loosen a little, the boss breathed a sigh of relief, and said with lingering fear, which one do you want? I'll call him over." Lao Huaying raised her eyes. "Which one?" She approached the boss. Her eyes widened, her mouth curled up in an exaggerated arc, and saliva kept coming out. "I fuck both of them the same." "Boss." Outside Lianming Street, more than a dozen gang members holding various weapons in their hands, walked into the street aggressively. The leader was a middle-aged man wearing a black sleeveless sweatshirt and a dragon tattooed over his shoulders. "Brother Duan is here this time. That crazy bitch Lao Huaying is dead. This bitch who doesn't know how to live or die, dares to provoke our Razor gang. I think she is really tired of living. Damn it, she actually shoved a baseball bat into me, and my butt hasn't closed yet. Brother Duan, help me get revenge. I'm going to fucking pierce her." Duan Caping frowned as he heard the noisy shouting of his younger brothers. He was told by his master Jiao Hongyan that it was a critical period recently, and his disciples should try not to cause trouble and restrain the Razor gang. However, he didn't look for trouble, but trouble found him. This crazy woman Lao Huaying didn't know where she came from. She acted extremely arrogantly and even rode on the head of their Razor gang. A part of Lianming Street was under his control, and the protection fee was usually handed over to him, but now it was all taken away by this woman. If he didn't show his cowardice, it would look even more strange to outsiders. So today he had no choice but to personally take action and kill this woman. Stop arguing. Duan Caping scolded irritably. When his younger brothers saw him getting angry, they immediately shut up. A bunch of trash. Duan Caping cursed inwardly. He can't even deal with a woman, and I have to do it myself. It was the same before. He couldn't even catch a single student, and was hit like a dog by a few stones. He irritably reached out from his pocket to take out a cigarette box, took out a cigarette, and put it in his mouth. A smart younger brother next to him immediately took out a lighter, and lit it for him. He took a deep puff of the cigarette, and exhaled a cloud of white smoke. At this time, an ordinary teenager wearing glasses passed by him. Duan Caping glanced at him, and felt that he was a little familiar, but he didn't care. Instead, he turned around, and said to his younger brothers, when the fight starts later, you just watch honestly from the side, don't make trouble for me. Huh. Xue Jing turned his head, and glanced at the group of young people. Some of them looked familiar to him. It seemed that they were the ones who wanted to kidnap Pei Yaoguang when he came out of his house that day. Then the leader, Brother Duan, was obviously Duan Caping. Xue Jing pushed the glasses on his nose, which reflected slightly under the sunlight. Interesting. He thought about it, walked into an alley, made a circle, came behind Duan Caping and his group, and followed them from a distance. The news that the Razor Gang came to cause trouble soon reached Lao Huaying's ears. Lao Huaying, who was sitting at the door of the restaurant smoking and thinking about how to fight two people alone later, suddenly saw one of her younger brothers running over, panting, "Big sister, it's bad. Duan Caping from the Razor Gang is here." Lao Huaying raised her eyes and said indifferently, "Who is Duan Caping?" Since she put on this headdress, she felt that she was getting stronger at an exaggerated speed every day. She was simply a fucking superwoman. Duan Caping? Duan Zengchen would die if he came. He is a core member of the Razor Gang. I heard that he is a powerful figure who can cut off people's heads with his palm. The younger brother said anxiously. Now that he is outside big sister, let's run away. Lao Huaying sneered, and without saying anything, she picked up the metal baseball bat in her hand, and walked directly outside. Before the 1v2, it is not bad to blow a head as an appetizer. If this Duan Zengchen, looks good enough, then it will be 1v3 later. The same thing will happen to three of me. The crown on Lao Huaying's head was faintly oozing with black air, and she suddenly felt that she seemed to be a little stronger. On the other side, Duan Caping had already come to the street. From a distance, he saw a woman with a baseball bat and a head full of golden hair. He immediately realized that this was the real boss, and immediately walked towards her quickly. The two came closer, and looked at each other, and Lao Huaying showed disappointment. "You stinky bitch, I heard you're very arrogant." Duan Caping narrowed his eyes, took a puff of cigarette, and was about to make a classic opening speech to declare the prestige of the Razor Gang to the onlookers on the street. But just as he finished speaking, a whistling sound followed, and a metal baseball bat flew towards his forehead at high speed. Duan Caping's heart trembled, and he instinctively lowered his head. The baseball bat rubbed his scalp, bringing a trace of hot pain. Reaching out and touching the extra blank space on his head, Duan Caping was immediately furious. "Bitch, you're looking for death." He immediately put his palms together like a knife, and slashed at Lao Huaying. The golden wind and white rainbow sword, without a blade, is better than a blade. With its sharp power, it can cut iron and steel. Although Duan Caping has not reached this level yet, it is still easy for him to cut a human body. However, to his surprise, the knife chopped Lao Huaying's neck, but it seemed to hit a tree stump wrapped in thick cowhide, making a crackling sound, leaving only a thin red mark on it. Duan Caping immediately realized that something was wrong. This woman was not right. At this time, the baseball bat swung again, at a very fast speed. Although it just came towards the head blindly, the hitting style was very rough and straight, but from the sound, it was known that the force was very terrifying, and it must not be taken hard. Duan Caping was about to dodge, and suddenly there was a bang explosion in his thigh. A thumb-sized stone flew from nowhere, and hit his thigh. It was like a bullet, directly piercing his thigh and leaving a bloody hole. After this blow, Duan Caping screamed and paused. The whistling baseball bat immediately hit his head, knocking him 7 or 8 meters away, smashing the glass of a barber shop and falling into it, motionless, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Brother Duan. The younger brothers were immediately shocked. Chapter 48. The woman is not virtuous. Deliberately punching. Lao Huang put the baseball bat in her hand on her shoulder, touched the thin red mark on her neck, and sighed. It still hurts. This was the first time she felt pain after wearing this headdress for a long time. After dealing with Duan Caping, Lao Huang was very proud and was about to return to the hotel, but she saw a boy wearing glasses not far away, walking towards her slowly. For some reason, although he was obviously an ordinary boy with nothing special, Lao Huang felt her scalp tingling inexplicably, and her steps stopped. She just watched the boy walk in front of her and push the glasses on the bridge of his nose. She couldn't see her eyes clearly because of the reflection of the afternoon sun, but she knew that the boy was looking at her. Boy, did you do what just now? Lao Huang narrowed her eyes and asked. Xue Jing nodded and smiled. Yes, it's me. Lao Huang immediately asked with vigilance, you brought a gun? Just now, a bloody hole suddenly exploded in Duan Caping's thigh. The power was obviously caused by a bullet fired from a gun. Although she didn't know if she could withstand the bullet now, she didn't want to try. Gun? I guess so. Xue Jing smiled. But don't worry, I won't use a gun against you. Xue Jing took off her coat, threw it on the ground, twisted her neck, stretched her hands and feet, and started to do warm-up exercises, as if no one was around. Just now, watching her fight with Duan Caping, Xue Jing had a general understanding of her level of martial arts. She was very strong, with thick skin and flesh, but her fighting style was very rough, and it was obvious that she had not received any combat training. She was a perfect sandbag for actual combat. This was a good opportunity to practice fighting skills, so Xue Jing decided on the spot not to take off his glasses, not to win by appearance, but to defeat her head-on. After twins was activated, he already possessed the speed and power of twins, and he was itching to do it. Of course, if something was really wrong, he would take off his glasses halfway and activate this hard control skill. Lao Huang heard this and saw his actions and understood what he meant. You? To deal with me? Just you? Lao Huang looked disdainful and mocking. But after a closer look, although this boy was wearing glasses and his appearance was not very clear, he had such a good figure and should be good looking, so it would be okay to play with him. Then come and try it. Let me see if your fist is as hard as your little mouth. Lao Huang licked her lips. Xue Jing did not speak again, but took a deep breath and practiced breathing techniques to let the strength surge in his body. Blood circulation began to accelerate, and body temperature gradually rose. In his mind, he visualized a real dragon with wings on its back, and a faint dragon spirit began to emanate from his body. Lao Huang frowned, feeling that something was wrong. Could this boy be actually very strong? Who the hell are you? Lao Huang shouted. Xue Jing thought for a moment, and said with a smile, you can call me Wu Heo. As soon as he finished speaking, Xue Jing immediately activated his twin speeds and rushed towards Lao Huang. It was beyond common sense, as if the accelerator key was pressed with a certain degree of first sight killing effect, and almost no one could react. The same was true for Lao Huang. She had never systematically learned martial arts, and her vigilance was seriously insufficient. At this moment, facing Xue Jing's extremely fast approach, she did not react at all. Bang! The fist cut through the air, wrapped in strength, and hit Lao Huang's chin fiercely. The latter was hit and fell back violently, with her upper body bent backwards, but she did not fall down. Xue Jing also understood how tough this woman was from the touch of the fist. He focused his eyes, activated his twin powers, and followed up with a whip kick, sweeping towards Lao Huang's waist. This blow would bend even steel bars. Lao Huang was directly kicked more than 3 meters away and hit a concrete wall, causing the wall to crack. Xue Jing took the initiative and had the upper hand. He immediately took advantage of the victory and continued to use his twin speed to approach Lao Huang. He punched her face with both hands, left and right, without mercy. Bang 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 bang. With the dull sound of heavy blows, the first punch made Lao Huaying's head sink slightly into the wall. The second punch continued to sink deeper. The countless punches that followed kept hitting her head into the wall, embedding it in it. The cracks in the entire concrete wall continued to expand with the hole where her head was embedded as the center. Hoo la la. Finally, the wall could not withstand such continuous heavy blows and completely collapsed, shattered into countless stones, burying Lao Huaying in it. Xue Jing took a breath and looked at his slightly red fist, exclaiming, "It's so hard." The residents watching around, including Du and Caping's dozen of younger brothers, all opened their mouths wide, looking at the boy wearing glasses and standing tall like a pine tree. Filming a movie? Fuck, even the wall is broken. Sister Lao won't be broken too? Hiss. What a cruel person. Even if that's the case, she is still a woman, and she actually hit me so hard. The woman is not virtuous, deliberately punching. Who is that person? Even Duan Caping was knocked down by Sister Lao with a stick, and he was able to hold Sister Lao down and beat her? A slender arm suddenly stretched out from the rubble. Hoo la la. Lao Huaying slowly sat up, and rubble and dust kept falling from her. She had been hit on the face countless times by heavy punches that would kill ordinary people, but at this moment, except for some bruises on her face, there was nothing wrong with her. Boy, you really fucking pissed me off. Lao Huaying gritted her teeth and spoke word by word. The crown with black flowers carved on her head faintly exuded a black airflow that flowed into her body, strengthening her body, while further amplifying the evil thoughts in her heart. Xue Jing looked at her solemnly, but a surge of excitement rose in his heart. This is fighting. Cool. Lao Huaying stood up suddenly, stepped hard, and actually stepped on the concrete floor to create a cracked mark, and rushed towards Xue Jing. Although she had no skills, her speed was still extremely fast under the absolute explosive power of her legs. She reached out to touch Xue Jing. Almost there, almost caught. Lao Huaying grinned with an exaggerated arc, drooling. As long as she caught him, she swore that she would tear this boy apart alive. However, just when she was about to catch Xue Jing, the latter just took a step back, leaving her palm empty. Then, Xue Jing raised his hand and grabbed her long golden hair. He pulled it down hard. As Lao Huaying's head was pulled down, Xue Jing used his twin powers and hit her hard with his knee, digging his knee directly into her face. The head that had just fallen was instantly knocked away again. Even Lao Huaying, who was hit hard by this, couldn't help but let out a cry of pain, and her nose was bleeding. But her anger was even stronger. She turned her waist and forcibly stopped the upward momentum. She turned around and grabbed Xue Jing's wrist with one hand. But before she could do anything else, Xue Jing's other hand had already reached in front of her eyes and flicked his finger. Ah. No matter if it's mean or vicious, as long as you can win, you can use any tricks. Only the one who stands to the end has the right to speak. Xue Jing's eyes fixed, and without hesitation, he kicked Lao Huaying's lower abdomen with a Spartan kick. Not only men's, but also women's, are huge weaknesses. I beg you gentlemen, to vote for the author with your monthly tickets. It's really important. From now on, for every 100 monthly tickets, I will add one more chapter on top of the 3 chapters a day after the book is put on the shelves. Please. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. What are you pretending? The Spartan kick, which uses the heel as a final force point, has the strongest lethality among all the kicks. Puff. Even Lao Huaying, under this violent kick that hit her weak spot, was bent like a cooked shrimp, with her hands covering her abdomen, and blood and vomit gushing out of her mouth. Xue Jing did not hesitate at all, and continued to move forward, raising his right foot straight above his head, pumping his strength, accumulating his strength to the limit, and suddenly slashed down like the blade of a guillotine. Lao Huaying was bending over while covering her abdomen, and the back of her head was hit directly by this heavy blow. Like a green onion, she was kicked into the ground by Xue Jing. Bang! Her face was deeply embedded in the hard concrete, and dust flew. With it as the center, a circle of cracks with a diameter of more than 1 meter appeared. Lao Huang did not move, and the black crown fell off and rolled to the side. It looked like an ordinary hair accessory, nothing special. All the onlookers at the scene were silent, shocked by the boy's terrifying force and his ruthless cruelty to women. Xue Jing didn't care about other people's opinions. He straightened the glasses on his nose, that were slightly crooked due to the violent movement, and leaned over to pick up God 1105 Crown of the Evil Woman. Divine matter detected, absorbing divinity. He took out his mobile phone, took a photo of the dark crown, and sent it to Wu Yaoqing. Containment is successful, Xue Jing said to himself. Looking at Lao Huang, who was lying face down on the ground and motionless, Xue Jing walked forward, stretched out his right foot, and turned her body over, in order to prevent her from suffocating to death, because her head was buried in the ground. As for the punishment for how many evil things she did after wearing the crown of the evil woman, it will be left to the residents, who have been persecuted by her in these days. The people in Nansheng district are simple and honest, and the major gangs are full of talents. Lao Huang, who lost the crown of the evil woman and degenerated back to an ordinary person, will surely have a hard time in the future. Xue Jing was about to leave when a low and indifferent voice suddenly came from behind him. Oh, I'm almost late, but it's just right. Hey, kid, give me the thing in your hand. It's not something you are qualified to touch. Xue Jing paused slightly, slowly turned around, and looked at the source of the voice. It was a man in a suit and leather shoes, with a very burly figure. His outfit was well groomed, and there was almost no wrinkle on his clothes. His tie was tied just right. His hair was combed back with pomade, and not a single strand of hair was sticking up. He looked like someone with obsessive compulsive disorder. The man had a hard face, and there was a sense of indifference in his eyes. He looked at Xue Jing with a look of superiority, as if he was looking down on him. Xue Jing stayed on his face for 2 more times, and felt a little strange. His skin was very white, abnormally white, and there were several dents on his cheeks, as if the skin was sewn on with very precise means, giving a sense of incongruity and strangeness. The same goes for the eyes. One is normal black, while the other is a dark red that emits a faint glow. What if I say no? Xue Jing said without any fluctuation in his tone. He glanced at the panel. In the divine skill column, below, twins, wisps of golden light spots poured out, and continued to gather. He had seen this phenomenon before. It was the same phenomenon when the twins were activated, when he first came into contact with the divine relic. A new divine skill is being born. Xue Jing closed the panel and stuffed Crown of the Evil Woman into his collar to ensure that it was in contact with his body at all times. Seeing his movements, the man narrowed his eyes. Boy, you are looking for death. The man took off his suit jacket and threw it aside. While walking towards Xue Jing, he loosened his tie, looking ready to take action. From the perspective of the dark red artificial eye, the data of the boy in front of him was quickly analyzed. Physical level estimation. 1.71.9. Physical alienation rate, less than 1%. There are traces of martial arts training, no obvious part specialization, and the combat mode cannot be calculated. After a lot of data testing, it is the final evaluation. Comprehensive danger level estimation. 2.12.5. Seeing this result, the man was a little surprised. He looks only 16 or 17 years old. Living in a rural place like the Outer Ring City, he can have a level evaluation of more than 2 at this age. This kid has good talent. But, he is still too weak. The man's eyes showed contempt. Boy, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the things. He walked in front of Xue Jing and crossed his arms. I can spare your life and only break one of your hands and feet. Kneel down and thank me for my gift. The man's words were mixed with a disgusting sense of self-righteousness. Xue Jing was silent for a while, blinked, and smiled. You dog, you shouldn't have pretended to be cool, right? The man's eyes turned cold. Let me guess, you are the kind of person who is willing to be a lowly, stinky dog that wags its tail and begs for mercy, but also wants to force its way into a circle that does not belong to you. Now you think that you are already very awesome to be able to enter this circle, and you are superior to others. You walk with the wind when you go out, and you can't help but want to imitate those upper class people you usually meet and pretend But, you have never pretended before, right? It's too stiff. Really, I feel embarrassed for you when I hear it. Xue Jing's mouth curled up with a smile as bright as the sun. I'm curious, you low-class stinky dog, why are you pretending to be your mother here? A member of the Razor gang who was watching around couldn't help laughing. Puff. The man heard the laughter, as if he was poked by something. His face turned blue and white, and his red artificial eye kept flashing, as if he was ashamed and angry, and then turned into complete rage. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. I'm going to kill you. He was about to make a move, but Xue Jing had already taken a step ahead and kicked the man's crotch without hesitation. Pa. After the dull sound, the man's eyes revealed contempt. Despicable martial artist, using such despicable tricks every day. How can we not be on guard? Xue Jing immediately realized that something was wrong. The kick didn't feel like a human body at all. It was as if he kicked a hard rubber tire, tough and hard. It's over. The man suddenly grabbed him at a very fast speed, like a giant beast opening its jaws to bite Xue Jing. This was a sure move. According to the evaluation given by the artificial eye, a kid with a physical energy level of less than 2 could not dodge it at this distance. However, the man missed. The young man was extremely agile. At a speed far beyond his level evaluation, he squatted down to avoid the grab and took a step back away from him. Then, he turned around and ran without hesitation. Damn it. The man was furious, crushing the floor and chasing after Xue Jing. Xue Jing shuttled through the alleys with complex terrain, his eyes thoughtful. Who is this person? Is he an intern from another internment company? His body is very strange. Is he a person who has taken banned drugs? Or is he equipped with a foreign implant? The medical conditions in the outer ring city are insufficient, and the use of foreign implants is prohibited. Is he from the inner ring city? There were constant bangs from behind. Xue Jing looked back. Compared to him, who was swerving and sprinting through the alleys with his strength skills, the other party was much simpler and more brutal. Like a tank, he smashed countless walls along the way and rushed towards him at a fast speed. Seeing that the distance was gradually shortened and the twin speed could not be maintained for a long time, Xue Jing glanced at the progress of the divine absorption on the panel. The pale golden light spots were still gathering. First, find a way to delay time and see what the new divine skills are. Xue Jing made a decision. He turned into another alley, his eyes swept across the place, took a few steps forward, and picked up a rusty, bent nail from the ground. Please give me a monthly ticket please. Chapter 50, The Dark Flame, the recipient. This little bastard can really run. The man cursed in his heart, while locking onto the traces, and tracking Xue Jing with his artificial eye. This is the trouble with martial artists. They are all as flexible as monkeys, running around here and there, which is too unpleasant. After smashing another wall, the man waved his hand to disperse the dust and stopped. The tracking traces displayed in the artificial eye ended here, and 3 question marks appeared in the upper right corner, indicating that the data was insufficient and the whereabouts were unknown. Run away. The man looked grim. No, if he could run, he would have run away long ago. He hid. The man adjusted the artificial eye mode, switching from tracking to insight. You bastard, you can't run away. In the dark red vision, all the details in the alley were scanned into the chip for thorough analysis. A phantom with the same figure as Xue Jing appeared in the artificial eye's vision. He moved a few times and dodged into the alley. He turned his head and scanned the alley as if looking for something, and then leaned over to pick something up from the ground. The artificial eye was still analyzing when suddenly there was a sharp sound of breaking air from above. The man instinctively raised his right hand, stretched out 2 fingers, and clamped them in front of his eyes, just clamping a rusty iron nail. But before he could continue to react, a figure followed the nail and fell from the sky at an incredible speed, punching him. The figure's speed was so fast that the man had no time to react at all. The fist had already hit his palm holding the nail and pushed the nail forward, directly piercing his artificial eye. The rusty iron nail penetrated into the eye and was completely immersed. The man screamed, bleeding profusely, covering his eyes and wailing. Seeing that the sneak attack was successful, Xue Jing immediately took advantage of the victory and continued to beat the opponent's eye where the nail was pierced. Bang 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 bang. The nail that had already been immersed continued to penetrate the man's body under the hammering of punches. "You're looking for death," the man roared, and while forcing himself to endure the pain, he opened his other eye and regained his vision. He pushed his hands outwards, interrupting Xue Jing's combo. Then he stretched out his foot and kicked Xue Jing, who immediately defended himself with both hands and blocked his chest. Xue Jing was kicked back several meters and hit the wall, leaving a human-shaped dent. Although he had used all his strength to defend himself, Xue Jing still felt a pain. His arms were burning, and his chest was stuffy. What a strong force. Xue Jing picked up the rubble of the wall that was smashed on the ground, grabbed a handful of it, and threw it at the man. Crackle. The stone in his hand, which could almost be used as a bullet, had no effect on the man, but only made him cover his face with his hands and cover his eyes. "I'm going to tear you in half alive, you despicable kid," the man roared. He really didn't expect to fall in a rural place like the Outer Ring City and suffer such a big loss at the hands of a kid who just passed the level 2. Low-class stinky dog, just a little thick-skinned, Xue Jing mocked. He opened the panel and took a look. The new divine skill became brighter and brighter. The man heard his mockery and became more and more furious, rushing towards him like a heavy tank. Xue Jing used the speed of twins and dodged sideways, and the wall was directly hit by the man. Damn it. The man was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. If ICE could not pass the security check and could not be legally brought into the Outer Ring City, why would it let this kid jump up and down here? I would have fucked him up long ago. At this time, Xue Jing dodged sideways, his eyes fixed, and kicked out suddenly, accurately grazing the man's chin. This was a natural attack that came from the mind, like an antelope hanging a horn, with almost perfect angles and timing. Xue Jing's own leg strength, plus the man's own kinetic energy, when he rushed forward, the two added together, immediately caused the man's brain to vibrate and feel dizzy. Oh no. Watching the ground getting closer and closer to him, the man secretly cried out that it was not good. The most valuable part of his body is this layer of C5 level protective membrane on the surface of his body, which has a very good protective effect against the martial artist's strength. But even so, he couldn't withstand the heavy blow to the chin, which is the most vulnerable part of the human body, the brain. The man fell to the ground and tried to stand up, but the concussion of his brain destroyed his sense of balance. He struggled to stand up. Xue Jing narrowed his eyes, took out a discarded pressure cooker lid from the garbage dump in the alley, and walked towards the man. Bang! The angle of the lid hit the back of the man's head hard, with a loud bang. Bang, 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 bang. The handle of the pot lid could not withstand the continuous heavy blows and broke, and the pot lid flew out. "You, wait for me, I'm going to eat you alive." However, the man looked fine, and even his sense of balance gradually began to recover. He slowly stood up and shouted. Xue Jing was shocked. What a monster. It was not the ability of a human to withstand blows. At this time, a dazzling golden light bloomed on the panel. Divine power absorption completed, and under the twins, a brand new divine skill appeared. Shadow Flame, not activated. Divine skill. Activation requires 539/500 divinity. Conditions have been met. Do you want to activate? Yes/no. Xue Jing hesitated for a moment, not knowing whether to upgrade the twins first, then activate a twin active effect, or activate this new divine skill. But, Shadow Flame, sounds like an offensive skill. After thinking about it, Xue Jing made a decision and clicked yes. Activation successful. Shadow Flame LV1. Divinity required for upgrade. 3900ths. Effect. Transform shadow into shadow flame with entity. Divine incarnation. Unlocked. Unlocking condition. Divinity 39/2000. Level reached LV10. In the alley. In all the shadows not exposed to the sun, countless black air currents converged towards Xue Jing like a vortex. Wow. On Xue Jing's body, black flames began to burn and bloom. The black flames burned more and more vigorously, turning into a gorgeous black flame coat. The man who gradually recovered from the dizzy state saw this scene, and the pupil of his only remaining eye suddenly contracted to the extreme. He opened his mouth wide, and his expression gradually changed from anger to fear. You. He seemed to want to say something, but he couldn't say it anymore. An arm wrapped in black flames grabbed the lower half of his face and lifted it up high. The man's pupils contracted, and he was so scared that he didn't even dare to resist. Inhuman power, the recipient. He is the recipient. I'm actually fighting against a recipient? Ha 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 ha. I'm dead. I'm going to die. Dead. Pay attention to the way you speak in your next life, Xue Jing said softly. Boom. Under his control, countless black flames gathered towards his arms and poured into the man's mouth. The man twitched a few times, his skin swelled, his eyes rolled up, and he stopped struggling after a while. Wisps of black flames emerged from his eyes, nose, and ears, and dissipated into the air. Looking at the motionless corpse in his hand, Xue Jing threw it to the ground, calming down the excitement in his heart caused by his first killing. The black flames wrapped around his body, beating quietly, like the god of the underworld wearing death, asking for monthly tickets. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.